Chapter 808. Captain, isn't this different from what we agreed on? Pang Yu said as he bandaged the wound on his thigh to stop the bleeding. Wu Guangzong's face was gloomy. He understood that the elite team had been tricked. Bai Xiaowen smiled brightly. Hey, elite team, you're too naive. Did you really think that an empty promise of 200,000 psionic points could make old Han betray us? Han Su was silent. He took 2 steps forward and stood at the front of the team. The Iron Fortress heavy shield fell to the ground with a bang. His tall and burly body was like a solid mountain. The price of 200,000 psionic points was enough to move many elite awakened. After all, the important children of the top families in the country, such as Ouyang Heng and Xiao Rui, only received 300,000 to 400,000 from their family funds after graduation. However, Han Su had only joined the team for a few months, and he had already obtained many gold equipment. This time, when he returned from the Sword Song realm, he had used more than 40,000 psionic points to strengthen his equipment. The total income was close to 100,000 psionic points. In addition, he had gone from level 5 to level 7 after 2 explorations with the team. 36% of his experience points had risen from level 5 to level 7. The benefits of such rapid leveling were immeasurable. His future in the White Phoenix team was infinitely bright. Even if it were other people, they would not be bought by 200,000 psionic points. What's more, when Bai Xiaowen recruited Han Su into the team, he had carefully examined him. Han Su looked like a taciturn gourd, but his potential and loyalty were very reliable. The possibility of betrayal was very low. Bai Xiaowen continued, Old Han found an opportunity to call me when he was asked by you to go out and instigate a rebellion. I asked him to accept the 20,000 psionic points as a deposit and to selectively give the information of our team to Lu Fei and Wu Guangming. By the way, the information that Old Han gave you was outdated information from before our 2 explorations in the spirit world. An outdated information sold for 20,000 psionic points. This is a very good deal. The faces of the 5 members of the elite team showed anger, embarrassment, and other complicated expressions. Wu Guangzong suddenly raised his hand and stopped the others from speaking. He said coldly, I don't know what you're talking about. Bai Xiaowen sighed in his heart. Wu Guangzong's reaction was still very fast. Bai Xiaowen was not wasting his breath by saying so much to the elite martial team. Instead, he was baiting Wu Guangzong and the others to respond to the bribery incident. No matter if it was cursing or threatening, as long as they were willing to respond, the Guild of Fine Martial Arts would suffer a huge setback. In the face of a big battle, bribing an opponent's member was a serious violation of the League's agreement. Even if the bribe was not successful, as long as there was evidence, the Awakened Association would still punish the Martial Excellence Guild. Private chats within the team channel would not be known by the outside world, but the conversations between the 2 teams would leave behind clues. The Elite Martial Arts Guild knew about the League agreement. When they bribed Han Su, they had Wu Guangming and Han Su make a deal. Although there would be a record of the transaction with the spirit world's rules, just a record of successful deal with Wu Guangming and received 20,000 psionic points was not enough to be used as evidence of bribery. The Guild of Fine Martial Arts Guild could refute. For example, this was the money that Wu Guangming borrowed from Han Su when he was in the Guild of Fine Martial Arts. Or it could be the salary and bonus that had been withheld. If they wanted to investigate, it would simply be a bad debt. Who knew how much effort it would take? Taking a step back, even if they could prove that this was dirty money, the Guild of Fine Martial Arts Guild could also push Wu Guangming out as a scapegoat. After all, Wu Guangming did not participate in the League. His achievements on the path of the Awakened had already been fixed. If they were serious, they would be jailed for a few months. If they were lenient, they might just let the Guild of Fine Martial Arts Guild punish them internally. As for the higher-ups of the Guild of Fine Martial Arts Guild, there was no record of the transaction. Moreover, the 20,000 psionic points of dirty money would also be confiscated. Bai Xiaowen did not want to use 20,000 psionic points to exchange for the future of a small pawn. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. It was best to keep it safe. Now that Wu Guangzong was not fooled, Bai Xiaowen could not make a fuss about this matter. However, since he had already spoken, it was also good to attack the morale and mentality of the opponent. Bai Xiaowen laughed and said, "Wu Guangzong, what do you think Han Su's intention is when he sent you the location? I just deliberately led you here. This Aurora Square is the battlefield that I have chosen. It is also the place where your group will be wiped out. Did you notice that the zombies here have almost all been cleared by me?" Wu Guangzong and the others were slightly shocked. There were not many zombies in the Aurora Square. After Bai Xiaowen and Han Su's early clearing, there were basically no zombies left. There were only a few zombies walking around in remote corners. This kind of terrain. How different was it from a plain? It was suitable for Bai Xiaowen's summon creature group to advance. Han Su's heart flashed with admiration for Bai Xiaowen. It turned out that Bai Xiaowen did not accidentally attract the attention of the zombies at the bus stop. It was premeditated. While they were talking, Bai Xiaowen had already raised his hand and summoned the other creatures. The Wrath Claw rushed forward and the skeleton swordsman attacked from behind, cutting off the path back to the subway entrance. Bai Xiaowen opened his palm and deterrence spread out in a large area. The 5 members of the elite team stiffened at the same time. Moreover, Tan Xiong, a guardian warrior, had a spiritual power lower than Bai Xiaowen by 22 points, 30% when Bai Xiaowen was holding the cold winter wand. He was immediately stunned on the spot. This deterrence was the signal to start the battle. Li Shi activated the Wrath of the Monarch and his speed increased sharply. He slammed into the injured archer Pang Yu with barbaric tackle. His speed was as fast as the wind. Han Su followed steadily while Butcher and the other summon creatures moved forward in a group. At the same time, Qiao Rui's soul rhythm bamboo flute faintly sounded. The weakening effect enveloped them, but the elite team had no time to deal with Qiao Rui. They could only endure the weakening effect of soul rhythm and fight the White Phoenix team head-on. Qiao Rui was currently on the roof of the Aurora building. It was not easy to get close to this support. Moreover, from past information, they could not do anything to Qiao Rui in a short period of time. Cecilia and Qiao Rui were standing close to each other. They were both on the top floor of the building. This female follower did not have any life-saving skills, so they could try to focus fire on her and insta-kill her. This allowed the elite team to avoid a big trap. If they had used the same tactic as the other teams and focused fire on Qiao Rui, it would have been dragged down by Qiao Rui's Jade Forging Art defense. Of course, this was also Bai Xiaowen's intention. In this duel with the elite team, the White Phoenix team had already gained a considerable advantage through the game before and during the competition. There was no need to let Qiao Rui expose his Jade Forging Art. "Leave Li Shi to me. Pang Yu and Deng Zhou, kill the archer follower on the other side." Wu Guangzong quickly rushed toward Qiao Rui. It should be noted that Wu Guangzong and the others were level 9 awakened ones. Their main specialties had already been trained to level 8 or 9. Li Shi's level 9 swordsmanship specialties when she performed the Tianzong sword art was not considered too strong for the elite team. The real strong part was the Tianzong sword art's sword moves that Li Shi occasionally performed. Those divine sword moves were the ones that were hard to block. The reason Tan Xiong almost lost his weapon in the first round was because as an MT, his shield mastery specialty was very high, but his swordsmanship specialty was only level 6. He was severely suppressed by Li Shi. When they heard Tan Xiong say that Li Shi's swordsmanship was close to level 10, the elite team was terrified. It was not that they felt that they could not resist, but that Li Shi's swordsmanship was very different from what they had expected. According to the information they had, Li Shi's swordsmanship was only level 7. The frustration of not being in control of the competition was the reason they were afraid. As a level 9 leader, Wu Guangzong's attributes were naturally stronger than Li Shi's. However, after being suppressed by soul rhythm, his strength was limited. A strength-type fighter mainly relied on high strength to fight against an agility-type phantom warrior. This would cause the opponent to become stiff or lose balance, forcing the agility-type phantom warrior to be unable to parry or block head-on. They could only constantly avoid the battle and look for opportunities to counterattack. On the other hand, Li Shi directly activated the Phantom Warrior profession skill, Unparalleled Ghost and God. At the same time, she also activated Demonic Fire Dance. Unparalleled Ghost and God was equivalent to a big move. Other than Wu Guangzong, the other 4 elite professions in the elite team all fell into a cowering state. Their attack speed and movement speed were both reduced by 20%. This was only the Unparalleled Ghost and God's level 4 special effect. Li Shi's level 7 special effect even allowed her to ignore the attack's stiffness and damage. As an agility-type profession, Li Shi's 2 swords flew and actually met Wu Guangzong head-on. Long sword and boxing gloves clashed. Although Li Shi suffered from recoil damage, her body did not sway at all. Wu Guangzong was shocked. As a Phantom Warrior, Li Shi had only fought in 2 matches. He knew too little about her. Not to mention the information he bought from Han Su, who knew how much of the information about Li Shi was fabricated. Unable to suppress Wu Guangzong's strength, Li Shi naturally had the upper hand in terms of agility. When Wu Guangzong threw 2 punches, Li Shi would often throw 4 or 5 swords. This was also under the condition that boxing gloves had the fastest attack speed, equivalent to an empty-handed state. Unable to parry, Wu Guangzong's body was continuously wounded. Fortunately, his profession was a fighter. In addition to his high strength, his vitality was also not low. His profession's passive special effect was Iron Skin, which could passively reduce physical damage by 30%. When activated, it would generate a layer of damage absorption shield equivalent to 3 times his vitality. Therefore, he was not afraid. However, after taking 2 swords, Wu Guangzong felt a bone-piercing pain. His health points were dropping much faster than expected. He felt a chill in his heart. After Fierce Tiger's combo forced Li Shi to retreat, he immediately stole a glance at the battle log. What the hell? 1 sword has 4 additional types of damage: sharp damage, fire damage, poison damage, and true damage. Sharp damage was a special effect of Li Shi's Red Heaven sword. It belonged to the physical type and would be passively reduced by Iron Skin. However, the flame damage of Devil Fire Dance and the poison damage of Poison Explosion had to be resisted by magic resistance. Lastly, the true damage of Half Giant's Wrath Ring, SLV4 special effect and Red Heaven Sword's LV7 special effect, S true damage couldn't be reduced. Wu Guangzong's health points dropped horribly. However, after parrying a few attacks, Wu Guangzong's heart ached even more. This was because he saw a notification, parry successful. Li Shi's Red Heaven Sword's special effect, Edge Breaker, has been activated. The durability of your equipment set, Molten Alloy Boxing Gloves, left, has decreased by 3 points. Parry successful, durability has decreased by 2 points. Parry successful, durability has decreased by 4 points. Wu Guangzong looked at his 2 gauntlets. The surface of the gauntlets, which was originally shiny enough to reflect one's appearance, was now covered with fine sword marks. Not good. It's only been 1 round, but the combined durability of my boxing gloves has decreased by almost 10 points. If this goes on, the durability of my boxing gloves will reach 0 in less than a minute. My combat power will be greatly reduced. It might even affect the following matches. In the psionic training ground, after every match, the cooldown of skills, health points, and mental strength of the Awakened would be reset. However, the lost durability of the equipment would not be restored. Under normal circumstances, the durability of the equipment would decrease very slowly. For a piece of gold equipment with 40 points of durability, even if the Awakened fought frequently, it might take 1.5 years before the durability of the equipment would reach 0. Therefore, during the competition, the Awakened generally did not have to worry about the lack of durability of their equipment. However, if they wanted to maintain their equipment and replenish their durability, they could only use the Spirit Realm ticket to enter and leave the Spirit Realm. It was still a little troublesome. Wu Guangzong had not been to the Spirit Realm for about a month. The durability of his boxing gloves was already not high. Now that Li Shi had cut off a few points of durability, it could be said that it was quite uncomfortable. He did not dare to use his boxing gloves to parry Li Shi's attacks. Therefore, a strange scene occurred. The high-agility ghost warrior Li Shi chased after Wu Guangzong with his sword, each strike faster than the previous one. On the other hand, the high-strength ascetic fighter Wu Guangzong desperately dodged and retreated as if he had seen a ghost. He was determined not to come into contact with Li Shi's long sword. However, this kind of fighting style of retreating and skirmishing was obviously inappropriate. Under the fierce attacks of Li Shi's dual swords, each strike caused 4 segments of damage, rapidly reducing Wu Guangzong's health points. It even forced Wu Guangzong to activate the active shield of his iron mantle. While Li Shi suppressed Wu Guangzong, Cecilia was in danger. Thanks to Bai Xiaowen's deterrence, Cecilia immediately knocked an arrow and continued to attack Pang Yu. The support, Deng Zhou, had no choice but to use the control item. He raised the hammer in his right hand, and a ray of light bathed Pang Yu's body. Immediately, Pang Yu's health points were restored to more than 80%. At the same time, the control status was lifted. Holy Light, restore, 126, health points to the target. LV4 Special Effect, Light of Freedom, remove a negative status or control effect on the target. Additional priority is 3. LV4 Special Effect, Blazing Heat, target's attack speed is increased by 15%. Lasts for 30 seconds. The healing capacity of Holy Light itself was not high, but the 2 skills' special effects were quite good, especially the LV4 Special Effect, Light of Freedom. The ability to dispel control was very advantageous in a competition. Pang Yu regained her freedom and quickly dodged. As a knight of divine grace, Deng Zhou's armor was not low either. He held his shield in front of Pang Yu and blocked Cecilia's arrows. At the same time, Pang Yu threw her short spear to counterattack. The cooperation of these 2 level 9 elites had turned the tables on Cecilia. Deng Zhou found an opportunity and waved his hand. The hammer in his right hand flew out in the shape of a hammer and hit Cecilia with a loud bang, Hammer of Sanctions. It could stun the target, and it lasted for a long time, a full 5 seconds. Pang Yu and Deng Zhou had worked together for many years and had exceptional chemistry. The moment Deng Zhou raised his hand, Pang Yu had already raised a short spear with both hands. Lightning flashed and she threw the spear. This spear was like lightning cutting through the sky. Not only was it extremely fast, but it was also extremely powerful. It was Pang Yu's ultimate skill. When Bai Xiaowen saw this scene, he immediately felt that it was familiar. This spear throw was actually the skill of the fake Prince Richard that they encountered in the Aaron dimension. It was just that it was an unawakened version. Although it was not an awakened skill, the power of a fixed attack was not to be underestimated. To make matters worse, the evoker Wu Siheo also waved his long staff and shot a frost arrow. His target was also Cecilia. Just like the White Phoenix team had their eyes on Pang Yu, the elite team also had their eyes on Cecilia. The archer in a team bore the heavy responsibility of continuous damage output. Under the same level of strength, whoever killed the opponent's archer first would almost win half the battle. Fortunately, Qiao Rui, who was also on the top floor not far away, saw the opportunity and used the team skill pull. Cecilia was instantly pulled over, and Pang Yu's lightning spear missed. However, with the enhancement of Wu Siheo's meditation specialty, he controlled the frost arrow to draw an arc and still hit Cecilia. Moreover, it exploded after hitting, triggering a second wave of frost damage and reducing the speed of Qiao Rui and Cecilia at the same time. Bai Xiaowen snorted coldly. The elite team actually ignored his existence, which made him very unhappy. The butcher attacked, and the meat hook flew out, accompanied by Bai Xiaowen's charm of confusion. Of course, the speed of the charm of confusion's trajectory was much faster than the meat hook. Pang Yu was stunned by the charm of confusion, and the meat hook was about to grab the unlucky archer and ravage her. However, the support Deng Zhou, who was close at hand, stepped forward and blocked the hook with his own body. The two sides competed. The butcher's strength had reached 39 points, and he easily dragged Deng Zhou over. However, Bai Xiaowen was not in a hurry to attack Deng Zhou. He only let a few skeleton swordsmen freeze Deng Zhou. He held the cold winter wand in his hand, and a frost shard quickly formed and flew towards Pang Yu. The advantage of magic was its high hit rate. Pang Yu was hit by the frost shard, and she was instantly reduced in speed. After a short cooldown, Bai Xiaowen cast a second frost shard. Above his head, there were already 2 glacier spikes. However, Tan Xiong, who was fighting with the butcher and Han Su, rushed over and blocked the attack for Pang Yu with his shield. Tan Xiong's situation was not good. Apart from being tortured by the rotting poison, his head had also been hit by Han Su, and his HP had dropped below 70%. In the team channel, he suddenly roared, "Captain!" Wu Guangzong's heart was heavy. The team was almost completely suppressed in a direct confrontation. What surprised him the most was that Li Shi was actually able to suppress him even though there was a 2-level difference. Tan Xiong's shout made Wu Guangzong make up his mind. He suddenly pulled out a scroll and tore it apart. Immediately, streams of black gas spread out, turning into many black ghosts. They screamed and pounced on all the enemies. At the same time, under Wu Guangzong's feet, bones reached out from the ground. A group of skeleton soldiers crawled out from the ground. S-grade scroll, undead domain. Wu Guangzong let out a long breath and looked at Bai Xiaowen with a gambler's eyes. He said hatefully, "Aren't you a summoner? Let's see who can summon more creatures." Chapter 809. A large number of skeleton soldiers and ghosts launched an attack. Li Shi and Han Su were forced to retreat. Soon, a large number of ghosts formed by the undead domain advanced in Bai Xiaowen's direction. In order to deal with Bai Xiaowen's summoned army, the Guild of Fine Martial Arts had put in a lot of effort. This S-grade scroll, Undead Domain, was a trump card that the guild leader, Wu Chonglian, had specially assigned to Wu Guangzong. It should be noted that the professional league was different from the university league. The league would not investigate the source of the items used by the awakened and whether they obtained them through their own abilities. To put it bluntly, the professional league was not only a competition of the team's strength, but also a competition of the guild's foundation. Of course, under normal circumstances, S-grade or even higher powerful items would not appear in the regular season because the cost and benefits were not proportionate. Even if a team lost a few matches in the regular season, as long as their overall performance was excellent, they would naturally qualify for the playoffs. If the team's strength was not enough, even if they won a few matches with powerful items, their overall performance would be too poor and they would not be able to qualify for the playoffs. Therefore, powerful items usually appeared in the playoffs, especially in the semifinals and the championship and runner-up battles, which were more intense. The reason why Wu Guangzong used it in the regular season was simple. If they won this match against the White Phoenix team, the benefits would be huge. In for a penny, in for a pound. After Wu Guangzong used the Undead Domain scroll, he took out an item that looked like an hourglass and pointed it at Butcher. The Butcher's movements suddenly froze. The poison cloud surrounding its body dissipated at the same time. Its huge body was like a mountain carved out of gold. It froze in place. Zhongya Hourglass, Replica A+ item. Targets a single target creature, regardless of friend or foe, and causes it to enter a frozen state for 60 seconds. If the target is an enemy, the duration will be halved. The creature in the frozen state cannot move, attack, or cast spells. At the same time, it is immune to any damage and cannot be targeted. Description: this hourglass is only a replica. It will be completely destroyed after one use. Wu Guangzong knew a lot about the Butcher. This big guy could be seen as a mobile AoE. He also had a bugged passive that allowed him to recover HP. Against weak creatures that relied on numbers to win, he was simply a daddy. Therefore, he did not hesitate to use a very important A+ item to seal the Butcher for 30 seconds. Within these 30 seconds, the Undead Domain scroll would decide the outcome of the battle. Wu Guangzong's heart surged with a trace of pride. He had even thought of tomorrow's newspaper headline. The Spirit Master, a heroic job that had always been known for its number of summoned creatures, had actually been defeated by a sea of ghosts and skeletons. Such a dramatic ending was the most eye-catching. Li Shi and Han Su both withdrew to Bai Xiaowen's side. "All right. We've forced out 2 items and 1 S-grade item. That's about it." Bai Xiaowen's smile was full of confidence. Seeing his smile, Li Shi and Han Su felt a lot more at ease. They didn't even need to ask how to deal with it because Bai Xiaowen had never let his teammates down. The winged banshee Delifa flew out. She raised her hands high and opened her red lips, singing from her soul. "Souls that linger here, awaken. Return to your cold body, ignite the flame of your soul, and bear malice and hatred towards the living. Rise." The 10-second preparation time was actually needed for Delifa's chanting. The 5 people from the Elite Combat Guild were a little confused. "What's going on? I don't understand. It's another skill that's not in the information." "Bah, don't bother about that information anymore. We can't let this banshee keep chanting. Interrupt her." Wu Guangzong roared. Under normal circumstances, the longer the chanting time, the stronger the skill. No matter what the opponent was doing, it was best to make the opponent uncomfortable. Wu Siheo, the Shaper, waved his staff and drew a circle in the air. At the same time, Bai Xiaowen received a notification that this was an AoE silence skill, Silent Land. Of course, the area was relatively small, with a radius of only 5 meters. It would also add a certain amount of magic damage to the enemy. Wu Siheo's target was obvious when he used this skill. However, Bai Xiaowen directly threw a berserk talisman at Delifa. Delifa's exposed skin turned red and entered a berserk state. The increase in damage was only secondary. Bai Xiaowen's real intention was to prevent Delifa from being controlled. After Silent Land took effect, Delifa was not muted. The chanting ended successfully. In the Aurora Square, the zombie corpses trembled, and pale white skeleton soldiers crawled out from them. Although these zombies were weak when they were alive and were not even normal models, under Delifa's corpse resurrection skill, the skeleton soldiers that appeared were all normal models. Their strength was average, but there were many of them. Under the cover of Delifa's mental power, the zombie corpses within a radius of 500 meters would turn into skeleton soldiers. In an instant, hundreds of them were pulled up. And as Delifa moved, she, who was in the state of soul guidance, continued to pull up new skeleton soldiers to join the battle. Bai Xiaowen snapped his fingers. Killing so many zombies before was not a waste of effort. "Ha! Wu Guangzong, you want to see who has more summoned creatures? Then let's see." The skeleton army that had been resurrected from corpses and the ghosts and skeleton soldiers summoned by the undead domain scroll were like 2 waves crashing into each other. However, Wu Guangzong's side was obviously much weaker. First, in terms of numbers. Although it was an S-grade scroll, it was not invincible. The number of summoned creatures was limited. There were only about 200 ghosts and skeleton soldiers, which was not enough to fight. Next, in terms of quality. The creatures summoned by the undead domain scroll were all weak monsters that were weaker than normal models. They relied on numbers to win. Compared to Bai Xiaowen's skeleton army, their individual combat ability was inferior. Moreover, Qiao Rui was still blowing the soul rhythm, which made the summoned creatures on Wu Guangzong's side even weaker. Qiao Rui's soul speaker ability was most suitable for this kind of large-scale battle. Regardless of whether the 2 sides were friend or foe, every dead creature would help her recover her mental power. Lastly, there was the command. After all, Wu Guangzong was not a summoner. The undead army he summoned could only fight based on instinct. It could be said that they were scattered. On the other hand, Bai Xiaowen, who was a genuine summoner, could fully utilize the power of a large army. Under the leadership of Bai Xiaowen's powerful summoned creatures, the skeleton soldiers were divided into small teams. They surrounded and annihilated Wu Guangzong's summoned creatures one by one. Soon, Wu Guangzong's summoned creatures were defeated. Chapter 8:10. Am I going to lose in the first round? As Wu Guangzong thought of this, anger and humiliation rose in his heart. It would have been fine if his opponent was one of the strongest teams in the alliance. However, Wu Guangzong could not accept losing to a new team, especially one that belonged to the super gods that he had always hated. He had to take out at least one of them. Wu Guangzong aimed his gaze at Li Shi. At this time, Li Shi was charging into the army of skeletons. Although it was difficult to identify the skeletons on both sides, Li Shi only needed to kill all the skeletons that dared to face him. Bang! Wu Guangzong's fists collided. A dark light flashed on the metal gloves, and it appeared to be flowing slowly as if lava was crawling all over them. He suddenly accelerated. His body flashed past the waves of summon creatures like a phantom and pounced on Li Shi. Phase dive, sprint speed increased by 50% upon activation. Ignores unit collision volume. Continuously consumes mental strength during sprint. Scorching lava dripped from the surface of the gloves onto the tiles of the square, and green smoke rose in spirals. Behind Wu Guangzong, a path of green smoke appeared. It looked like a devil from hell, with a terrifying aura. When Wu Guangzong rushed in front of Li Shi, he opened his mouth and let out a roar. The rolling sound waves spread out like invisible waves. Li Shi, who was close by, was stunned. Bai Xiao and summoned creatures, who were a little further away, were severely slowed. Savage Roar let out a deafening roar. Enemies within melee range will be stunned for 3 seconds. Enemies outside melee range, within a radius of 25 meters, will be severely slowed. Lasts for 3 seconds. Li Shi immediately used an item to remove the debuff. However, he was shocked to find that he still could not move. It turned out that when Wu Guangzong's Savage Roar was upgraded to level 7, he had drawn a special strengthening effect, Powerful Shock. Enemies with less than 60% strength will be stunned for 1 second. The priority of the Powerful Shock effect was an additional +1. Don't underestimate this additional +1 priority. This was the dividing line between whether or not the control could be lifted. Li Shi was now in the heroic mode. She and Wu Guangzong both had a base priority of 4 points. The food she used to remove crowd control had an additional priority of 3 points. Wu Guangzong's Savage Roar was a 3-star skill, so it also had an additional priority of 3 points. Originally, Li Shi would have been able to remove the control status under the same priority of 7 points. But in this 1 second, the priority had reached 8 points. Relying on this skill, Wu Guangzong had defeated countless hero-class opponents. In a battle between awakened ones, being able to guarantee absolute control for 1 second was crucial. Li Shi had used Dispelling Food to dispel the 3-second stun from Savage Roar, but the 1-second stun from Might Shock could not be dispelled. Die! Wu Guangzong's face was distorted. He raised his hands high above his head and clenched them into a heavy fist. He slammed it down heavily on Li Shi's head. Lava flowed on the molten alloy gloves. It was like a meteorite smashing down. The surrounding skeleton soldiers were even pushed away by the strong wind pressure. This is bad. Many thoughts floated through Li Shi's mind in an instant. As a veteran team in the B-League, the elite team was not to be underestimated. This time, if Bai Xiaowen hadn't arranged the battlefield in advance to create the best environment for the Deliphus corpse to revive, the outcome would have been hard to predict. At this moment, a burly figure crossed the battlefield like lightning and rushed in front of Li Shi, raising a heavy shield. Many tanks had the rescue skill, but Han Su's rescue was different. This was because it was the skill of his class, Ardent Defender. In addition to the short cooldown, it could be strengthened as the class leveled up. There were additional bonuses. Level 4 Special Effect, Space Fisher. After activating Rescue to select an ally, your sprint speed will be increased explosively. At the same time, all speed reduction effects will be removed. How fast was this explosive movement speed? According to the trial during training, Li Shi used the Shadow Assassin as a target. When she stabbed out with her sword, Han Su, who was 30 meters away, activated Rescue. He could instantly dash in front of the shadow assassin and block the sword for the shadow assassin. There was no doubt that Li Shi's attack speed was fast. From the time she attacked to the shadow assassin was only a few tenths of a second. Han Su's explosive speed was close to teleportation. No wonder his level 4 special effect was called Space Fisher. Just this one effect was enough to completely destroy the rescue skill of many tanks. In the nick of time, Han Su blocked the attack for Li Shi. A trace of anger flashed in Wu Guangzong's eyes, but he had no intention of stopping. This heavy molten punch was enough to kill Han Su. In any case, he couldn't let his opponent get a clean kill. In this extremely short period of time, Han Su's thinking speed couldn't keep up. He could only rely on the instincts he had recently trained to activate his life-saving skills. Iron Fortress Shield's additional skill, Iron Will, activated. Receive 40% physical damage reduction for 30 seconds. Sandalwood Great Armor's Level 7 special effect, Solid Wall, activated. Double armor value for 15 seconds and receive a layer of physical damage absorption shield equal to the total armor value. In addition, after Han Su's class leveled up to level 7, the level 7 special effect of his class skill, Ardent, was also activated. This was a passive effect. For 20 seconds after activating Rescue, all physical and magical damage received would be reduced by 20%. Boom! Wu Guangzong's heavy molten punch landed on Han Su's shield. The surging power surged and lava exploded, instantly enveloping Han Su and Li Shi. Han Su bore the brunt of the impact. After being smashed by the huge force, he knelt on one knee and held on with his shield on his shoulder, holding on tightly. The high physical recoil damage, coupled with the fire damage from the lava, instantly reduced Han Su's health points. Fortunately, as a strength-type hero, Wu Guangzong's punch mainly dealt physical damage. The damage was reduced by Han Su's shield, and a large part of it was absorbed by the Sandalwood Great Armor's physical absorption shield. As for the damage from the lava, Wu Guangzong's mental strength wasn't high, so the damage was not exaggerated. Han Su only coughed out a mouthful of blood before gritting his teeth and standing up. As the attacker, Wu Guangzong took a step back, and his face turned pale. Han Su's talent skill, Damage Reflection, would reflect 30% of the physical damage received, before the reduction, back to the opponent as magical damage. He was like an iron hedgehog. Chapter 8:11. Wu Guangzong's eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. He had not expected that a level 7 elite MT, a rookie who had just graduated from university, would actually be able to withstand his all-out ultimate move and even cause him to suffer a loss. This was his set skill, it was extremely powerful. Is this really the MT that the elite martial arts guild doesn't want? Wu Guangzong could even feel that Han Su's potential was even stronger than his teammate Tan Xiong's. Holy light poured into Wu Guangzong's head, and at the same time, green life energy surrounded Han Su's body. The support of the two teams simultaneously used healing skills to restore Wu Guangzong and Han Su's HP. Wu Guangzong took a deep breath, and the loss in his eyes disappeared. The battle wasn't over yet. Wu Guangzong punched Han Su. Get lost. A punch with high strength was enough to knock Han Su out of his melee position. However, after using his shield to block the punch, Han Su only took half a step back. Then, taking advantage of Wu Guangzong's pause, he moved forward again and actually continued to block his position. How is this possible? The moment Wu Guangzong's fist and shield collided, he could sense that Han Su's strength was only around 30 to 40 points, which was far from his own. However, he didn't know that Han Su's gold-grade shield, Iron Fortress, had an additional skill called Iron Will. It had a passive effect that increased toughness by 66.7%, which meant that it could reduce damage by 2/3. In a battle of the same level, Han Su was as immovable as a mountain. Even if he was facing Wu Guangzong, who was 2 levels higher than him, or a high-level leader, he could at least be a tree rooted in the ground. A high-level leader could kill Han Su, but to knock Han Su out of his melee position, it was impossible to do so without special means. Bai Xiaowen secretly praised Han Su in his heart. He was already an excellent MT. With Han Su standing in front of him, Li Shi, who had recovered from the shock, was able to make full use of his advantage. As the two swords clashed, Li Shi executed the heavenly sword art. His level 9 swordsmanship wasn't inferior to Wu Guangzong's, but his attack speed was far superior, giving him the upper hand. Looks like he won't be able to use any trump cards. It's time for this battle to end. Bai Xiaowen coughed softly. The commander's cloak fluttered even though there was no wind, as if there was a soundless roar. Command roar activated. Allies within a large area will receive 15% more damage and receive 15% less damage. Wrath Claw raised its head and let out a long howl. Everyone's attack power and attack speed increased by 20%. 2 large AoE skills became the final 2 heavy blows to defeat the elite team. Under Bai Xiaowen's control and command, the skeleton soldiers, whose damage was greatly increased, killed all the ghosts and skeletons summoned by the undead domain as if they were vegetables. Then, they used the Sea of Bones to kill all 5 members of the elite team. No matter how strong the elite team was, there was nothing they could do. One had to know that the Delifa was constantly flying in the square. Under the guidance of the soul, zombies were constantly being revived into skeleton soldiers and joined the skeleton army. Even if the elite team could kill 5 or 10 skeleton soldiers with one big move, there would be an endless stream of skeleton soldiers to replace them. There was no hope for them to turn the tables. The last person, the Guardian Tan Xiong, died. A grand announcement sounded. White Phoenix Team won. On the big screen, the close-up of the 5 members of the White Phoenix team blinded the audience's eyes. There was a lot of discussion in the audience. I'm not dreaming, right? This is the elite team's competition? One of the most popular teams in the 2nd division? I originally thought that elite team had the advantage, or at least they were evenly matched. I didn't expect them to be defeated. Is it because elite team is too weak, or is White Phoenix too strong? I keep feeling that these two teams are not on the same level. White Phoenix won too easily. It's not just easy, it's a complete suppression. In the VIP seats, Wu Chonglian's face was gloomy. Li Beihai was the complete opposite. His mouth was almost reaching his ears. He laughed loudly and deliberately raised his voice. TSK, elite team is still quite strong. They lasted for so long before they were wiped out. If they were lucky, they might have been able to change one of them. Don't you think so, President? Yang Yongkam shook his head helplessly. A smile appeared on his lips, but he did not respond. He was leaning towards Bai Xiaowen, but he did not want to rub salt on Wu Chonglian's wound and take advantage of him. Moreover, as the president, he had to be impartial and prudent. He could not be like Li Beihai, who talked and laughed without restraint. Li Beihai was also very stifled. How many times had the main team of the super gods been suppressed by the elite team? Wu Chonglian did not hold back when he made fun of him. Now that the tables had turned, Li Beihai had to make up for it. Not long after, the MVP of the match was shown on the big screen. It was surprisingly Han Su. In fact, Bai Xiaowen had done more. The skeleton marine team was the masterpiece of his summon creature Delifa. It could be said that he had single-handedly secured the victory. However, when the organizers were asking for the opinions of the team, Bai Xiaowen took the initiative to give the MVP to Han Su. He wanted to let Old Han show his face and make his presence known. After all, Old Han did not have many opportunities to perform like this. The chances of him winning the MVP were even rarer. If Bai Xiaowen wanted to win the MVP in the future, wouldn't it be easy? Besides, Bai Xiaowen also wanted to clear Old Han's name. After all, in the hearts of the elite team's higher-ups, Han Su was their abandoned general. Moreover, the elite team had used Han Su as a breakthrough point and wanted to bribe him. Looking at the big screen and the close-up of Han Su's calm upper body, Fu Yiping said softly. This is the MT that the elite team gave up on? Wu Chonglian's face was ugly. The MVP was Han Su. This was a slap to his face. He took a deep breath, it's not that the elite team gave up on him. It's just that he already had the intention to leave. He was poached by Bai Xiaowen. Fu Yiping sighed. I can see that he has great potential. It's a pity that he was poached by Bai Xiaowen. The Giant Gods Guild had a strong tank like Ling Feng and did not need to nurture a new tank. Fu Yiping's words were directed at the elite team. Wu Chonglian was very angry. He gritted his teeth and said, no matter how strong his potential is, it's useless if he's not loyal. Fu Yiping said, 2 out of 3 wins. For the next 2 rounds, the elite team cannot lose. They have to win all of them. Otherwise, the first round of exploration of the new treasure land in the North Chiu Kingdom will be given to someone else. Wu Chonglian sighed and calmed down. This loss may seem like a crushing defeat for the White Phoenix battle team, but in reality, the strength of the 2 battle teams is not that different. Guangzong and the rest underestimated their opponents and were lured into the battlefield that Bai Xiaowen had designed in advance. The large number of skeleton soldiers summoned by the Banshee decided the outcome of the battle. Even the strong teams in the first division would not be able to turn the tables. Chapter 8:12. Jinghai Gymnasium. On the stage, the 2 commentators were dutifully reviewing the match. The male commentator, Memories, was a bit embarrassed. He was leaning towards the elite martial guild. Within the Awakened Association, he had always kneeled and licked the boots of Fu Yiping and Wu Chonglian. Under normal circumstances, when the elite martial team won a match, Memories would brag. When the elite martial team lost a match, he would find a way to smooth things over. But in this match, against the new team, the true slaughter mode was converted into a 0 for 5. How could he smooth things over? The female commentator, Ali, did not think so much. She excitedly said, in the match just now, the White Phoenix team used their strong team battle ability to prove to us the terror of this new team. They are indeed worthy of having 4 hero templates, the team with the strongest potential in the 2nd division. Although the MVP award was given to the tank, Captain Bai Xiaowen's dominance on the field is still unquestionable. In the data we received, Bai Xiaowen's damage ratio reached an astonishing 62.4%. This is definitely an MVP-level performance. Girls love pretty boys. This sentence was not false at all. Ali did not have a preconceived preference for the 2 teams. Naturally, she preferred the White Phoenix team, which was full of handsome men and beautiful women. Especially Bai Xiaowen. Why did he look so elegant the more she looked at him? Memories coughed. There is a special reason why Captain Bai Xiaowen was able to get such a damage ratio. In this match, he used the zombie horde to summon a large number of skeleton soldiers to participate in the battle. Under normal circumstances, without so many skeleton soldiers, his damage ratio should have decreased a lot. After a pause, the commentator, Memories, finally thought of a way to smooth things over for the elite martial team. Actually, in this match, the elite martial team crashed into the White Phoenix team's predetermined battlefield and lost the initiative, which led to the loss of the match. In the following match, I believe that this veteran team will learn from this lesson and quickly adjust their state. Speaking up to this point, Memories and Ali said together. The short break is over. Let us begin the forbidden segment of the 2nd match. The captains of both teams stepped onto the stage at the same time. Bai Xiaowen glanced at Wu Guangzong. The captain of the elite martial team had an ugly expression, but his small eyes were murderous. For this match, Bai Xiaowen had banned the Crystal Destruction mode, which was more entertaining and had more variables. He had made up his mind to give the elite team a satisfying 2-0. Wu Guangzong disabled Conquest mode and started the selection. Finally, the competition mode on the big screen froze. Memories, Leader Challenge mode. Perhaps because the first match's true slaughter mode was too intense, the second match was much more relaxed. This mode is a competition of the ability of both teams to challenge the leader. Ali, that's right. According to the rules, when both sides challenge the leader, the average level of both sides will be +2. If the leader is 10 levels higher than the leader's attributes or skills will be enhanced. Right now, all members of the White Phoenix battle team are at level 7, while all members of the Elite battle team are at level 9. The leader they will be challenging should be at level 10. Memories said, "Next, please prepare to enter the arena." In this short period of time, let's briefly introduce the characteristics of the League 2's Leader Challenge mode. There were two main differences between the League 2 and the University Student League in the Leader Challenge mode. First of all, the two quest bosses were in the same large-scale dungeon. Both teams entered the same large-scale dungeon at the same time and could attack each other while carrying out the quest. Second of all, in addition to the two quest bosses, there were also a large number of elite and normal monsters. Simply put, the competition was more intense and required more psychological and combat skills. The victory condition remained the same, which was to kill the chosen quest boss and complete the quest objective. In other words, even if Team A wiped out Team B once, it would not be considered a victory. They would have to kill the designated leader of Team A. And if Team B was wiped out, it would not just wait to lose, it would respawn at the respawn point. If Team A killed Team B's quest boss, it would not be considered a victory, and Team B's quest boss would respawn. Of course, respawning required a certain amount of time, so this could effectively delay the opponent. Why didn't the University Student League have so many tricks? Simple, it was mainly because of the cost. To use such a perfect competition mode, one would need a super large psionic training ground. And this level of psionic training ground required a large amount of psionic points every time it was activated and generated a map. In order to reduce costs, the 6 modes of the University Student League were naturally simplified, and the excitement level would be reduced accordingly. Before entering the arena, there was one more chance to exclude the leader type. 2 teams could automatically exclude a leader type that they did not want to encounter. Wu Guangzong excluded the agility type, and Bai Xiaowen excluded the strength type. Then came the map generation, advertisements, and live female entertainment group performances. Team White Phoenix and Team Elite stepped through the door of the super-large psionic training ground one after another. White light flashed, and when the scene in front of them froze again, Bai Xiaowen found himself and his teammates on a large airship. This airship had the light of magic runes flashing on it, and it actually floated by magic power. And below, there was a large fortress similar to the pyramids of Egypt. Obviously, the airship and the fortress were on opposite sides, and they were constantly exchanging fire, and the roars were endless. Above the airship, paratroopers were constantly descending, and pure white umbrella flowers bloomed in midair. Before the 5 of them could come back to their senses, they heard a pleasant voice. "Hello, brave warriors." The person who spoke was a mature blonde beauty with a strand of white in her blonde hair that was loosely braided behind her neck. The blonde beauty was wearing a double-breasted aristocratic suit, and she looked like a noble princess, but she held a long staff in her hand. Team White Phoenix immediately received a notification from the arena. This blonde beauty was the leader of their faction, level 10 Archmage Princess Angelina. At the same time, Princess Angelina was also the mission target of Team Elite. Bai Xiaowen coughed. "At your service, Your Highness." Princess Angelina nodded solemnly. The war against the barbaric Bloodscalp trolls has reached its final moment. Hastala relied on the strong fortress to block the bombardment of the arcane cannons. "I need you to kill your way into the fortress and take the head of this troll warlord." Arena notification, mission target confirmed, King Hastala. King Hastala's position will be refreshed on the map every 5 minutes. Bai Xiaowen silently recited the map, and a virtual map page opened in front of him. This was great, even the time to explore the terrain was saved. Chapter 8:13. Arena notification. This is the leader challenge scenario. After the contestant enters a state of near death, you can choose to release your soul. If you do so, your soul will be brought to the base camp by the soul doctor. At the same time, your corpse will become indestructible. In your soul state, you can choose to revive within 25 meters of your corpse. After reviving, you will only have 50% of your HP and MP. You can also choose to revive in front of the Soul Doctor in the base camp. However, you will have to endure 10 minutes of weakness and all your attributes will be reduced by 50%. Isn't this the corpse running and revival from weakness in Mountain Pass? Bai Xiaowen thought it was very interesting. In the leader challenge mode, the revival rules were different due to the different scenarios. This scenario was obviously the setting of the war between the humans and the trolls in Mountain Pass. Therefore, the revival rules were the same as in the Mountain Pass game. Reviving from the corpse running was more troublesome, but all attributes would not be reduced. It was the most reasonable way to revive. Reviving from weakness seemed convenient, but in 10 minutes, it was easy to be killed again. The gains did not make up for the losses. Bai Xiaowen suddenly thought of something. He said to Delifa in the Black Soul Stone, "Right, later, if I kill the awakened members of the elite team, do not try to absorb their souls." "Yes, Master." In fact, according to Bai Xiaowen's idea, the souls released after death might just be a formality and not a real out-of-body experience. The Black Soul Stone's soul-absorbing ability might not work. Moreover, even if the souls were really out of body, the awakened members' souls would be protected by the rules of the psionic training ground. This was reflected in the reception of the Soul Doctor. This protection priority was as high as level 10. Although Bai Xiaowen's Black Soul Stone's soul-absorbing ability was very powerful, it should not be comparable. The reason why Bai Xiaowen told Delifa to do this in advance was just to be safe. If the awakened members' souls were really sucked away and turned into soul essence, it would be a big problem. Bai Xiaowen would also get himself into trouble. Taking a step back, Bai Xiaowen and the elite team did not have any deep hatred. It was just a dispute of personal feelings. There was no need to kill. "Captain, what should we do now?" Qiao Rui asked. Bai Xiaowen stood at the front of the airship and looked down to estimate the altitude. The airship was about 100 meters away from the ground. This was to maintain the range of the arcane cannons. At the same time, there were a few thick iron chains hanging from the buildings on the ground. Perhaps it was to stabilize the airship and make it easier for the cannons to aim. However, these anchor-like chains would also give the enemy an opportunity to take advantage of. Bai Xiaowen said, "Let's analyze the situation. We are on the side of the humans, while the elite squad is on the side of the blood-scalp trolls. Our goal is to kill King Hazterra. The main difficulty is the elite troll army in the fortress. There are definitely more of them than the human guards on the airship. On the other hand, the elite team would be able to clear fewer monsters, but their problem was how to board the airship. I'm guessing that the setting of this scenario is for the trolls to use the chains to climb up. Of course, they'll be attacked in the process." Qiao Rui nodded and said, "If that's the case, the overall difficulty of meeting the boss is about the same for both sides." Bai Xiaowen nodded and was about to say something when Princess Angela's voice sounded again. "Warriors, time is running out. Go and complete your mission." Bai Xiaowen thought for a moment and said, "Your Highness, I want 2 people to stay behind to protect you." Princess Angela seemed to not hear him. After a few seconds, she urged again, "Warriors, time is running out. Go and complete your mission." "Okay." Bai Xiaowen said awkwardly, "It seems that the bosses on both sides can't communicate." She's been urging us. I guess it's a hidden rule in the boss challenge mode. We can't just sit here and wait. We have to be proactive. Can't we leave 1 or 2 people behind? Qiao Rui suggested. We can hide in a place where Princess Angela can't see us. Bai Xiaowen shook his head and said, "It's useless. This is probably a hidden rule. No one can stay behind." Bai Xiaowen tried again. The 5 of them entered a secluded cabin in the airship to avoid Princess Angela's sight. However, in less than 5 seconds, a paratrooper ran in and said the same words as Princess Angela, urging everyone to join the battle. Now, the other teammates understood. It seemed that this was really a hidden rule. The 5 of them had to rush over to kill the enemy's commander as soon as possible. Similarly, the enemy's fortress, which was called Hacker Fortress on the map, was not something that the elite team could stay in. Okay, everyone, jump out and storm the fortress. We're racing against time. With our ability to explore the spiritual world, we have a high chance of winning this battle. If we meet the elite team in the fortress, we'll fight a team battle in advance. In this battlefield with corpses everywhere, we'll still have the advantage in a team battle, Bai Xiaowen said. Standing on the deck of the airship, Bai Xiaowen looked back at Princess Angela again. Although he was very confident in his words, he still left some tricks up his sleeve just in case something went wrong. The 5 of them jumped down one after another. 5 more white parachutes appeared in the air. Actually, the airship was 100 meters high. With the strength and agility of the Awakened's bodies, they would not die even if they did not use the parachutes. However, they would lose a lot of HP. If they were not careful, they might even break their legs. The 5 parachutes would open after descending halfway. They just needed to slow down a little. The 5 of them landed one after another. Their landing point was inside the fortress. This was the advantage of an airdrop. There was no need to break in from the outside. After quickly assembling, the White Phoenix team followed the human paratroopers and rushed into Hacker Fortress. Outside the gate of Hacker Fortress, 5 figures appeared from a hidden place. It was the elite team. "Captain, should we stop them?" Deng Zhou asked. Wu Guangzong shook his head. "I have to admit, the enemy is very strong, and this battlefield is very suitable for Bai Xiaowen's corpse revival tactic." Wu Guangzong pointed at the battlefield. The corpses of the blood-scalp trolls and human paratroopers were piled up. If they were used by Bai Xiaowen, the same tragedy would happen again. Tan Xiong said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, we must board the airship as soon as possible and kill the boss first." Wu Guangzong nodded. "Old Tan is right. The main difficulty for us to see the boss is boarding the airship. The normal way is to climb the chain. I believe Bai Xiaowen also thinks so. He is inexperienced after all." While speaking, Wu Guangzong waved his hand. The 4 teammates followed him and ran all the way to the top of Hacker Fortress. On the wall, there was a row of catapults. Under the command of the goblin cannoneers, the trolls were constantly moving stones and throwing them at the airship in the sky. Not destroying these catapults before entering the fortress is Bai Xiaowen's mistake caused by his inexperience. Wu Guangzong said to the goblin cannoneers, "We are the warriors sent by King Hastala. We must board the airship as soon as possible and take the head of Princess Angelina. Let the 5 of us be the stone projectiles and fire at the airship." Goblin technology, impressive. Good warriors, this is a genius idea. I will do it immediately. The goblin cannoneers did not have much communication ability. They only knew how to repeat the first few words. It could be seen as a program. Only when Wu Guangzong made a request and triggered the hidden program would the goblin cannoneers say the last few words. This was a preset response, not an AI response. This method of using catapults to get close to aerial vehicles was a small trick of the ground faction in the leader challenge mode. The more exciting thing was to use the projectiles as cannons and fire them out. Of course, experienced teams would also be prepared for this. Wu Guangzong climbed up the handle of the catapult and kicked down the prepared projectiles. He waved his hand to signal for them to fire. Bang! 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 In the whistling sound, the 5 members of the elite team flew up. Based on their experience, they tried their best to curl up their bodies so that their center of gravity would not change too much. Just like that, they crashed into the magic airship in the air. In addition to saving a lot of time, this method also allowed the elite team to avoid the interference of the airship's artillery while boarding the airship. Of course, this method was not safe. Of the 5 members of the elite team, only 3 of them successfully landed, that is, crashed into the flexible airbag of the airship. When they bounced back, Wu Guangzong raised his hand and grabbed a cable on the surface of the airbag. Then, he slowly slid down to the ground. The other 2 people who successfully landed were the archer Pang Yu and the tank Tan Xiong. Shaker Wu Saheo and support Deng Zhou were very unlucky. They missed their target and drew a large parabola in the air before landing on the ground more than 1,000 meters away. Fortunately, due to the influence of air resistance, the two of them did not land too quickly. In addition, they rushed forward and rolled a few dozen times on the ground to reduce the impact of the fall. Although they were covered in dust and had lost some of their health points, the impact was not too big. F***CK, the cannoneers of the two catapults we rode on are too bad. Wu Saheo scolded. It's okay. 3 of them successfully boarded the airship. We have already seized the opportunity. Wu Guangzong landed at the tail of the airship. From afar, he could see Princess Angelina standing on the bow of the airship. There were paratroopers who had not yet set off swarming over. They were all killed on the spot with a few punches and kicks. Wu Guangzong quickly ordered, Old Tan, Pang Yu, gather at the tail of the airship. Clear the small monsters first. Don't enter the boss's alert range. Saheo and Deng Zhou, climb up along the anchor. When they come up, we will have cleared most of the small monsters. After a short rest, we will immediately start the boss fight. This time, when Wu Saheo and Deng Zhou climbed up the chain, they encountered almost no resistance. This was because the paratroopers on the airship were all attracted by Wu Guangzong and the others. According to the setting, as long as they did not enter the range of Princess Angelina's spells, she would not take the initiative to move or attack. Of course, there was a reasonable explanation for this. Princess Angelina would stay at the control panel at the bow of the airship to control the firing of the arcane cannons. She would not leave easily, just like how King Hastala would not leave the Bloodbone Throne easily. The White Phoenix team broke into Hacker Fortress, inside the pyramid building. The interior of the fortress was well connected. Corridors connected to rooms that were like tombs. The virtual map showed that the Troll Warlord, King Hastala's room was on the top floor. Note that the structure of a troll tribe is relatively primitive. The leader can be called Warlord, Chieftain, King, or Leader. They all have the same meaning. For example, the Amani Warlord, Zol Jin, is the ruler of the Amani Empire. With the guidance of the virtual map, the White Phoenix team's advance was relatively fast. In their path, there were already a dozen Bloodscalp troll corpses lying on the ground. There were 2 types of Bloodscalp troll minions. One was a melee type called the Bloodscalpians. They either held a miner's hoe or a pickaxe. Their combat power was limited and was equivalent to a normal template. The other type was a ranged type called the Despicable Blow Darter. They could shoot paralytic arrows from afar. Their template was the same as the Bloodscalpians. These 2 types of monsters could not do anything. They could not even stop the White Phoenix team's advance. Suddenly, Qiao Rui made a sound of surprise. Sister Qiao, what's wrong? Li Shi asked. Qiao Rui's expression was strange. The elite team has already boarded the airship. So fast? We're still very far from Hastala's Bloodbone Throne. Li Shi said in surprise. Qiao Rui had been using the Falcon's spirit to observe the battlefield from above. He explained the method used by the elite team to everyone. Everyone was instantly enlightened. This is cheating. Their biggest obstacle was boarding the airship. I didn't expect it to be solved so easily. There aren't many human paratroopers on the airship. They won't be able to hold on for long. Li Shi said. Well, it seems that the elite team has started the boss battle before us. That's unavoidable, Bai Xiaowen said with a sigh. I really didn't expect there to be a hidden trick to using the catapult to board the ship. Correspondingly, there should be a similar secret passage in Hacker Fortress that will allow us to reach the Bloodbone Throne. It's just that we don't know where to find the entrance to the secret passage. Or rather, if we want to find the entrance to the secret passage, we should first find the corresponding human NPC and trigger the program. Qiao Rui said, after all, we're a newly formed team. We lack experience. It's fine. It's just a small accident. It won't affect the overall situation. I'm already prepared. Bai Xiaowen smiled. Let's continue forward. Don't be distracted by the enemy. The White Phoenix team continued to advance according to the guidance of the virtual map. Soon, they encountered the elites of the Bloodscalp Trolls. Chapter 8:14. Bai Xiaowen shared the information of the Bloodscalp Trolls with his teammates. All 8 of them were level 8 or 9 elite trolls. Bloodscalp Headhunter, elite level 8, race, humanoid/trolls, attributes, strength 40, agility 57, constitution 38, spirit 20, skill 1, savage stab, charge in one direction and launch a vicious stab, dealing heavy damage to the first enemy in its path. The target must pass the constitution test, or they will suffer heavy bleeding. Skill 2, regeneration, passive, race ability. The Troll Headhunter's HP recovery rate is increased by 50%. It can also recover from minor injuries at the cost of stamina. Skill 3, ranged form. The Bloodscalp Headhunter will launch a ranged attack with a spear. Each spear will deal additional physical damage, based on strength. Skill 4, Hostiles Roar LV2, gain 200 additional HP. The other 2 trolls wearing voodoo masks at the back were level 9. They were called Bloodtop Shaman Priests. Their attributes lean towards spirit. In terms of skills, they were also spellcasters. Other than the race passive ability regeneration and the high-level elite common skill Rasta's Roar, their other 2 skills were Lightning Arrow and Summon Totem. Li Shi sprinted at the front. After going through the previous battles, her 2 major bonuses, her Ghost Warrior profession and her innate talent, had already been stacked up to 10 layers. Now, her whole body was surrounded by a faint halo. With 88 points of agility and 50 points of strength, she could almost be regarded as a level 9 agility type leader. Li Shi's sword pierced the throat of the first Bloodscalp Headhunter. It was a critical hit and a vital strike. It was an instant kill. Li Shi took a step back and attacked again. The second Bloodscalp Headhunter waved its short spear in an attempt to parry, but Li Shi deceived it. Li Shi's sword pierced the Headhunter's heart, killing him instantly. Li Shi dashed left and right in the crowd of trolls as if she was dancing. Every time she attacked, a troll would either die or be crippled. When this scene was displayed on the big screen, it immediately caused a burst of exclamations and praises from the audience. Li Shi's valiant strength won the applause of the audience. Of course, the 2 shamans wearing voodoo masks wouldn't let Li Shi do whatever he wanted. The shaman on the left danced with his hands as if he was dancing, and soon, a green totem pole fell to the ground. The green totem extended like vines. Many green energies crawled out and wrapped around Li Shi. Li Shi's speed was greatly reduced. Summon Totem, Earthbind Totem. Another shaman raised the fire stick in his hand. Amidst a complicated and incomprehensible chant, a dazzling lightning arrow shot out. Seeing Li Shi being slowed down, the remaining Bloodscalp Headhunters immediately regained their courage to fight. One of the trolls let out a roar and charged forward with its short spear, launching a barbaric thrust. Of course, Bai Xiaowen would not allow Li Shi to challenge so many high-level elites alone, especially when there were spellcasters involved. He waved his hand and summoned a skeleton shield hand to block the lightning arrow. As for the barbaric thrust, Li Shi could still dodge it even though he was slowed down by the Earthbind Totem. At the same time, Scarlet Heaven Sword led the Bloodscalp Headhunter, causing him to be unable to stop in time and crash into the wall of the tunnel. Li Shi stabbed again. Scarlet Heaven Sword pierced through the troll's heart from the back and came out from his chest. It was obvious that he was dead. Bai Xiaowen took out the Desert Eagle and began to shoot at the 2 Bloodscalp shamans. He killed one with a single shot, while the other one was entangled by Han Su and had no room to cast spells. The 8 elite trolls only delayed the White Phoenix team for less than 10 seconds. The trolls that came after them were killed by the White Phoenix team. With astonishing speed, they killed their way to the top of Hacker Fortress, the Bloodbone Throne, and faced King Hazterra. Jinghai Stadium. The big screen was divided into 2 sections. One section showed the progress of the White Phoenix team and the other showed the elite team. The commentator recalled and said, the White Phoenix team is advancing really fast. Unfortunately, they lost the initiative. Even though they reached the Troll Warlord, the elite team has already reduced Princess Angelina's HP to half. In the end, a new team is not as experienced as an old team, especially a strong team like the elite team. They are very resilient and were not affected by the loss of the first round. In this round, they immediately return the favor. He shamelessly praised the team. The female commentator, Ali, continued, "It is indeed a pity. If the White Phoenix team was more experienced and destroyed the catapults or found the secret passage of Hacker Fortress, their chances of winning would be higher. However, they may not lose yet. After all, as long as the boss is still alive, they still have a chance. Their chances are very slim. The two bosses are spellcasters who specialize in mental strength. They need to spend time testing out their skills and wait until they understand the characteristics of the boss's skills, casting range, and so on. Only then can they force their way through. The elite team not only has a half HP lead, they also have a lead in the time needed to test their skills." Memory's commentary did not seem to be biased on the surface. The White Phoenix team is now on the Bloodbone throne. They can't return to the magic airship and interfere with the elite team's boss battle. If they want to win, they have to deal several times the DPS of the elite team. This is obviously not realistic. Ali blinked. But the White Phoenix team leader, Bai Xiaowen, has the insight talent. He can see the information of the boss skills. There's no need to test their skills first. Memories was a bit embarrassed. He did not know much about this new team. Even though he had seen Bai Xiaowen's information card, he could not memorize it by heart. He had forgotten about the insight talent for a moment. He, who had always prided himself as a professional, had been defeated by a flower vase. Generally speaking, the female commentator was not as professional as the male commentator. The reason why a male and female commentator was arranged was to make the audience feel more comfortable. The female commentator was not bad-looking, so it was not surprising that she was called a flower vase. On the other hand, the male commentator represented professionalism and depth. In fact, Ali wasn't completely familiar with the new team's information. She was only familiar enough to memorize Bai Xiaowen's information card, and that was all. Memories tried to smooth things over. Yes, insight can indeed save some time, but it can only see some basic information. It's still different from facing the boss. In the VIP seats, Wu Chonglian smiled. They should have won the second round. Li Beihai's expression was a bit ugly. He slapped his thigh. "Sigh, I still lack experience." Old Demon, who was sitting next to him, said, "Even though there are only 6 modes in the Pro League, the maps are ever-changing. There are too many tricks like this. If you don't personally experience it, you can't just rely on words to explain it. Only experienced teams can easily handle it. Xiao Bai just joined the Pro League. It's normal for him to pay a certain amount of tuition." Li Beihai sighed. He felt that this was too risky. Old Demon thought for a moment and said, "When I go back, I'll organize all my experience in the Pro League and write a book for Xiao Bai to look at. Even though it's not very useful, it's better than doing nothing." Old Shifter had a point when he said that it was not very useful. For this kind of triggering trick, one had to first set up the situation and even design the map beforehand. Under the specific situation, one had to pay attention to what elements and what kind of NPC to find in order to trigger the trick and obtain the convenience. The Pro League's psionic particles were ever-changing. The same scene might not appear a second time. Just like the examples and practice questions in mathematics, it required people with high comprehension ability to grasp them. As for those with high perception, they would understand everything after experiencing a few matches in the league championship. At this moment, Memories was still chattering away on the commentary platform. Team White Phoenix has started attacking. Qiao Rui has started playing the flute to weaken the boss. Li Shi and Han Su have followed. Let's see what team captain Bai Xiaowen will do. He's not doing anything. He's retreating. Oh my god! What's he doing? Not only was the commentator, memories, tongue-tied, but even the audience was confused by what they were seeing. Battlefield, top floor of Fort Hacker, Bloodbone Throne. Half a minute ago. Familiarize yourselves with the boss's information and skills. We'll start attacking soon. Bai Xiaowen sent King Hastara's information to the team channel. King Hastara, boss level 10, race, humanoid/giant demon, class, Bloodcrest Warlord, attributes, STR-52, DEX-43, Constitution 56, WIL-77, Skill 1, Lava Strike. King Hastara infuses the power of lava into his weapon to attack the enemy, dealing heavy fire damage and inflicting continuous fire damage and slowing effect on the enemy. Skill 2, Wild Wolf Spirit. King Hastara summons a wild wolf spirit to fight for him. The Ghost Wolf Spirit has spirit body and laceration skills. 30% of the damage dealt will be used to heal King Hastara. Skill 3, Lightning Storm. King Hastara summons elemental spirits to attack all enemies with destructive energy, inflicting AoE paralysis effect. Skill 4. Skill 5, Warlords will LV4, receives 600 extra HP and 60% toughness. Receive enhanced skill. Li Shi said, "Ha, finally a boss without cheating. Even if this boss has more than 1000 HP, it won't be hard to kill." In the Sword Song realm, the bosses with special Nigong skills had indeed caused the White Phoenix team a lot of trouble. Although the warriors were weak and didn't have the general skill bonus, extra HP, none of them were easy to kill. The damage reduction provided by the Nigong was too scary. Qiao Rui's level 1 Jade Forging Technique Nigong could absorb a total of 1,800 damage, as long as it didn't deal a lot of damage at once. As for the bosses like Gu Yulian and Wei Siqin, it was needless to say how powerful their Nigong was. Therefore, when they saw King Hastara, the level 10 boss, in front of them, they didn't think it was hard to kill. Qiao Rui said worriedly, "With the Falcon's spirit's surveillance, we can see the other side's progress. The elite guild has already reduced Angelina's HP to less than half. We're in danger." Bai Xiaowen said with a smile, "You four take care of this boss. Leave the elite guild to me." "Okay, let's begin." Although the team members didn't understand what he meant, they still rushed forward as per their usual practice. Face the wrath of King Hastara. After a meaningless line, the troll warlord, who was blind in one eye, stood up. He held a shining warhammer in each hand and strode forward to meet the attack. After Bai Xiaowen gave the order to start the battle, he jumped out of the window. This was the highest level of Fort Hacker, and the entire structure was pyramid-shaped. The difference between it and the real Egyptian pyramids was that the top wasn't a sharp corner, but a huge troll voodoo mask. Fort Hacker was 50 meters high. What was the point of Bai Xiaowen jumping down, other than making himself dizzy? This was something that the audience, including the commentators, couldn't understand. However, the team members present had full confidence in Bai Xiaowen. They didn't think about how their captain was going to delay the elite guild or the meaning behind his jump. Instead, they were focused on dealing with King Hastara. After all, it was a level 10 boss with balanced attributes, powerful melee and magic. Bai Xiaowen wasn't participating in this battle, so they couldn't let their guard down. After Bai Xiaowen jumped out of the window, he raised his hand and grabbed the edge of the windowsill. Then with a flip of his body, he jumped on top of the dome of Hacker Fortress and climbed up the huge voodoo statue. Awakened ones were all superhumans. Bai Xiaowen's dexterity was 36 points. Although it wasn't enough to fight a boss with dexterity, it was still a piece of cake for him to perform such a feat at this time. The vertical height difference between Bai Xiaowen and the magic airship was only about 50 meters. The actual distance between the magic airship and Bai Xiaowen was about 200 meters. From Bai Xiaowen's point of view, he could even see the battle at the front of the airship. Of course, Bai Xiaowen didn't need to see. He had left an ambush on the magic airship. That was the Shadow Assassin who was invisible. Through the shared vision of the Shadow Assassin, Bai Xiaowen could see the entire process of the Elite Guild's boss battle. Of course, Qiao Rui also had the spirit of the falcon to monitor him. However, Bai Xiaowen was worried that the elite guild would detect the spirit of the falcon in advance and use long-range attacks to kill it, just like what he did to Qiao Rui. So, he left an extra trick up his sleeve. Although the elite guild didn't find the spirit of the falcon, Bai Xiaowen's trick wasn't unnecessary. At this time, Princess Angelina was already panting. Her noble dress was splattered with blood, and her loose braids were also messed up. Her blonde hair fluttered in the wind. She looked a little embarrassed. She was a traditional ice mage. She relied on a series of damage and control skills such as Ice Armor, Frost Nova, and Ice Storm to hold on until now. She also caused a lot of damage to the 5 members of the elite guild. However, she couldn't hold on any longer. Chapter 8:15. This Ice Armor skill is really annoying. It's the bane of melee fighters. Wu Guangzong looked at Princess Angela with some displeasure. She was surrounded by a circle of fine blue ice shards. This was the Ice Armor skill. The Frost Armor itself could temporarily freeze melee attackers. Furthermore, Princess Angelina was a level 10 boss, so she had the additional effect of her boss skills. This gave the Frost Armor an additional effect. Enemies within melee range would be slowed down, and at the same time, receive continuous magic damage. This way, melee classes like Wu Guangzong and Tan Xiong would not be able to continuously deal damage. They could only engage in melee attacks and run. Otherwise, they would not be able to endure the continuous frost damage. If the pressure on the party's HP was too high, relying on food and support spells like Holy Light would not be enough. When Wu Guangzong and Tan Xiong's skills were on cooldown, they could only rely on the evoker Wu Siheo and the pursuer Pang Yu's long-range attacks to slowly reduce Princess Angela's HP. If they did not have the Ice Armor skill, the elite team would have already defeated this delicate mage princess. Do you guys think the White Phoenix team has seen the mission boss now? Wu Guangzong suddenly chatted. He had nothing to do anyway. They should have arrived. Their damage is actually very high. Even if they took the normal path, it should be about time. If they took the secret shortcut, their progress might not be behind us, Tan Xiong said solemnly. Tan Xiong said cautiously. After the previous battle, he no longer dared to underestimate this new battle team. Wu Guangzong nodded. That's right. To be safe, when the boss's HP is below 25%, we'll attack. I'll use the set's ultimate skill and you'll provide control. Try to insta-kill her. Even if we can't insta-kill her, we'll have to endure the AoE damage. We can't give the White Phoenix team too much time. Before Wu Guangzong finished speaking, there was a sudden muffled bang. It was as if a heavy object had landed on the magic airship, causing the huge airship to sway slightly. At the same time, Wu Siheo and Pang Yu exclaimed. What's going on? Wu Guangzong turned to look and was stunned. Between Wu Siheo and Pang Yu, there was a huge mountain of flesh. Wu Guangzong was very familiar with this mountain of flesh. It was one of Bai Xiaowen's main summon creatures, the Butcher. Butcher held the giant snake scepter and activated rotting toxin. Like a giant crab spewing poisonous gas, he waved his scepter and smashed it at Wu Siheo. At the same time Butcher landed, another white light flashed. Skeleton warriors, skeleton swordsmen, vampire keats, a group of summon creatures charged out at the same time, surrounding the 2 weak long-range damage dealers of the elite team. Bai Xiaowen. When did he get on the airship? Wu Guangzong immediately thought of the trebuchets, but without the help of the goblin cannoneers, the trebuchets would not fire at all. How did Bai Xiaowen get on the airship? If he had climbed the chains of the ship's anchor, it would not have been so fast. Captain. Bai Xiaowen is over there. He supported Deng Zhou with his holy light and healed Wu Siheo. At the same time, he rushed into the crowd of summoned creatures and raised his hammer and shield in an attempt to save Wu Siheo. He even pointed at Wu Guangzong while he was busy. Wu Guangzong looked in that direction and saw Bai Xiaowen smiling at him from the giant voodoo mask on top of the building in Hacker Fortress. F***CK. How did he throw the summoned creatures onto the airship from such a distance? Wu Guangzong cursed. The guardian Tan Xiong also rushed over to save Wu Sihao. He said weakly, I didn't see clearly in the previous battle, but it seems like Bai Xiaowen's summoning is different from other summoners. He can summon creatures from tens of meters away. He's at least 200 meters away from the airship. That's 2F** King far. Wu Guangzong was so angry that his head was full of bumps. In fact, how far was Bai Xiaowen's fixed-point airdrop? Intelligence multiplied by 10, unit, meter. Not to mention 200 meters, even if it was 700 meters, it would not be a problem. Unfortunately, fixed-point airdrop was a derivative function of the Dark Soul Stone after it was upgraded to level 4. It was only effective on summoned creatures from the Dark Soul Stone. Otherwise, Bai Xiaowen could have thrown the Wrath Claw over and let the elite team experience double the joy. The elite team was now in an awkward position. The boss was already below half health. If they put in a little more effort, they would be able to kill the boss. However, they could not deal that much damage. The summoned creature's attack power was limited, but blocking was really annoying, especially the butcher. It was like a wall standing there. Long-range attackers could not even think of touching the boss. This guy was also damn tough. After being affected by the rotting poison, they could not hit him at all. The elite team finally managed to snatch the 2 long-range attackers from the summoned creatures. At this time, both of them were only left with half health. Leader, what should we do? Should we fight the summoned creatures or the boss? Wu Sihao asked. This was a question of death. Neither choice was good. How much time would it take to fight the summoned creatures? Needless to say, the other 4 members of the White Phoenix team were definitely seizing the opportunity to kill King Hastera. If they wasted time dealing with the summoned creatures, they would definitely lose the match. Ignore the summoned creatures and fight the boss directly? If Bai Xiaowen's summoned creatures stole the last hit from Angina, then it would be game over. Angina would respawn after a short time. Wu Guangzong gritted his teeth and made the choice. Ignore the summoned creatures and attack the boss with all you've got. When the boss's health drops to 25%, I'll save my ultimate for the last hit. The damage of Wu Guangzong's set of boxing gloves, Molten Fist, was insane. In theory, it would cause close to 1,000 physical damage, and it would also cause magma damage as an additional bonus. However, as a level 10 boss, Angina's armor and resistance were very high. By default, her equipment was strengthened by level 10, meaning that she had the 30% damage reduction of her equipment, but she did not have the equipment strengthening effect. She also had an insane defensive skill like Ice Armor, which could reduce physical damage by almost 70%. If Wu Guangzong wanted to land the last hit, he would have to reduce Angina's health to below 25% to be safe. Thus, the elite team began an epic battle. Not only did they have to fight the boss, but they also had to endure the brutal torture of Bai Xiaowen's summoned creatures. If they had been in an open space, there would have been room to dodge. However, this narrow airship bow was the place where the butcher's rotting skill could be used. It was not easy to dodge. Moreover, Princess Angina was not easy to deal with. Although she was just a program, her combat intelligence was definitely not low. Previously, the paratroopers under her command had been eliminated in advance, so there was no one to cover her. Now that she had a group of summoned creatures with thick HP, her terrifying bombardment ability as a great mage was displayed vividly. Enhanced skill, Ice Storm. The faint sound of an ice river roaring could be heard. A large area of ice and frost turbulence surged, enveloping the elite team. The first to bear the brunt was the support, Deng Zhou. He was instantly turned into a block of ice, and his health dropped by more than half. Bai Xiaowen's teamwork was not to be trifled with. When he saw Princess Angina casting her ultimate skill, he had already prepared his summoned creatures. At this moment, the butcher's staff had finished charging and smashed down. Deng Zhou's bones were broken, and he was sent flying, dying on the spot. The frozen members of the elite team at the back also suffered from varying degrees of damage, and their health dropped to critical levels. Princess Angina was just a program, and there was no affection for her. She waved her staff and started chanting. Her enhanced skill, Ice Storm, was about to hit. F***CK. Wu Guangzong spat out this word. He used a control removal item, and broke free of the Ice Storm's confinement effect. He activated his acceleration skill, and rushed forward, activating Molten Fist in advance. With the boss's current health, it was clear that it would not be killed. However, Wu Guangzong could not care less. If he did not interrupt Princess Angina's Ice Storm, the team would be wiped out on the spot. However, a wave of bat shadows pounced on him, and Wu Guangzong felt his ankle tighten. Kits had already pounced on him. Wu Guangzong's charging speed was extremely fast. Now that his ankle was locked, he could have used his strength to break free. However, a strange force drilled into his body, causing his movements to become stiff. What would happen if one's body became stiff while running at high speed? Wu Guangzong demonstrated. His body pounced forward like a wild goose falling from the sand. Then, his chin touched the ground, and he slid forward several meters. He was abnormally angry. He turned around to look for Kits, but Vampire Kits had already let go of his hand and slipped far away. Two other skeletal swordsmen surrounded him, blocking his path. Wu Guangzong felt that although he was skilled in martial arts, his hands and feet were bound. He could only watch as the boss Angina unleashed her enhanced ice storm. The air temperature dropped several dozen degrees. Ice shards fell from the sky, accompanied by snowflakes. The 4 members of the elite team, who had just recovered from the ice storm's confinement, were quickly covered in a layer of dark blue, and their speed was greatly reduced. Pop, pop, pop. As the third wave of ice shards fell, the elite team's archer, Pang Yu, and mage, Wu Siheo, both died. The ice storm was still falling. At this time, Wu Guangzong's heart was as cold as the snowflakes. It was over. The elite team had been wiped out by the ice storm. Standing at the top of Hacker Fort, Bai Xiaowen curled his lips. Did they really think that a level 10 boss was easy to bully? No matter what, they were still at the peak of the awakened stage, the strongest under the Lord stage. Especially when Princess Angina was a level 10 mage. With Bai Xiaowen's cooperation, wiping out the elite team had been too easy. Of course, this was also because Bai Xiaowen had taken advantage of the surprise attack. The first wave of airdrops had knocked out Pang Yu and Wu Siheo's life-saving skills, allowing the boss Princess Angina to achieve a quadruple kill. Bai Xiaowen recalled his summon creature army and slipped down from the top of Hacker Fort. Although Princess Angelina stole my pentakill from me this time, we still managed to wipe out the elite team. Princess Angina will soon reset her HP and MP. The elite team will have to run back to their corpses to revive. If they want to challenge again, there won't be enough time. Running back to their corpses in a soul state would not be affected by external attacks. Moreover, the soul's movement speed would be 50% faster. But this was not important. Bai Xiaowen returned to the Bloodbone throne through the window. At this time, his teammates had already forced King Hastera to a dead end. No matter what, the team consisted of 3 heroes and a reliable main tank like Hansu. They also knew the boss's skills very well. With a little more time, killing Hastera would not be a problem. King Hastera was a close combat spellcaster and seemed to be an advanced class of shaman. The skill that was not detected was actually Totem Summon. However, as an enhanced skill, he could summon up to 4 totems at once, each with different effects. This skill, together with King Hastera's Lava Strike, caused Hansu to suffer quite a bit. After all, Hansu's defense was mainly to absorb physical damage. He could not withstand magical damage. Lava Strike mainly dealt fire damage. As an enhanced skill, it also triggered the Wind Rage effect. With 2 strikes, Hansu lost 2/3 of his HP. He was already low on HP and was almost instantly killed. Fortunately, Qiao Rui healed Hansu and pulled him back from the jaws of death. Li Shui, as the main damage dealer, performed brilliantly in this battle. After activating Fiend Fire and Lord's Wrath, as well as absorbing 14 points of strength from King Hastara through Blood Drain, her damage was off the charts. King Hastara's HP was close to 1,200, and almost all of it was taken down by her sword. Bai Xiaowen joined in the end and sped up the battle. My Empire, King Hastara fell to the ground. The battle was over. Team White Phoenix won. On the big screen, a close-up of the 5 members of Team White Phoenix appeared again. At this time, there was a warm applause in the stadium. Female commentator Ali, "Oh my god. I have to say, this was a battle full of variables. Bai Xiaowen's performance was too dazzling. He turned the situation around by himself. Not only did Elite Team not get the first blood, but they also got wiped out." The male commentator looked at Ali's sparkling eyes and felt a little jealous. He said, to be precise, he worked with the boss Princess Angelina to wipe out the opponent. From this, it can be seen how fatal it is for a team to encounter external interference when challenging a boss. Ali diverted the topic and at the same time found a way out for Elite Team. After Ali reacted, she also praised Elite Team. After all, they couldn't do things that would undermine them. Most of the time, everyone had to carry the sedan chair. No matter what the two commentators said, the audience was already in an uproar. Some said that Wu was too weak, some said that White Phoenix was too strong, but everyone agreed on one thing, and that was Bai Xiaowen's individual ability was too amazing. He was worthy of being the team's core, the tactical brain. Some said that even if Bai Xiaowen was not of the hero profession and was an elite profession, his position in White Phoenix was unshakable. He was too smart. The VIP seats could of course hear the discussions in the audience. Li Beihai was elated. He slapped his thigh and said with a smile, "Ah, good. 0 points. Well done, this is the way to fight. Let's see how some people can be arrogant in front of me in the future." These words were obviously said for Wu Chonglian. After the latter heard it, his face was extremely gloomy. It was as if a volcano had been deposited but was unable to erupt. Li Beihai didn't know what it meant to stop when he was ahead. He only knew how to pursue the victory and anger people to death. "President, you are the judge of the bet. Then, the right to explore the new treasure space in the North Chio Desert." Chapter 8:16. The match on the 28th of November caused quite a stir in Jinghai Base City. Even though it was only a Division B match, it was a derby between the Jinghai Base City and a battle between a new dark horse and a veteran team. This match attracted the attention of the Jinghai Base City's citizens from the very beginning. The local media and newspapers of Jinghai were even more frenzied. Unbelievable. The veteran team's zero-match tragedy, shocking. New team could be the biggest dark horse in the league, it's not their fault. Analysis of Elite Team versus White Phoenix. Generally speaking, the local newspapers of Jinghai City were divided into two factions. One faction praised the White Phoenix team, especially Bai Xiaowen's performance. Compliments such as the strongest dark horse, the favorite to win the championship, and the peak of his debut were thrown at the White Phoenix team as if they were free. The other faction did the exact opposite. They defended the Elite Team and found all sorts of reasons for their actions. For example, the map of the first match was not good. The zombie maze was too beneficial to Bai Xiaowen's performance. For example, the second match was an accident. If the White Phoenix team had been assigned to the Bloodscalp Troll camp, they would have been disrupted during the boss fight and would have been wiped out. The two factions each had their own version of the story. No one could convince the other. It had to be said that the Elite Team had been in Jinghai City for many years. Whether it was reputation or strength, they were not something the super gods could compare to. If the White Phoenix team had been zero matches, no newspaper would have stood up for them. At most, they would have said that the young people still needed to be trained. But no matter what the newspaper said, the White Phoenix team's victory was a fact. The Elite Team had no choice but to lose the B-level mission qualification to the super gods. Inside the elite martial arts guild, there was a gloomy atmosphere. The members in the guild building all kept their voices to a minimum. Logistics Department. Lu Fei knocked on the door and entered the logistics department. He smiled apologetically at one of the administrators. "Hello, Brother Zhang." The administrator looked at the computer and glanced at Lu Fei. He said in a businesslike tone, "Yes, what's the matter?" Lu Fei said carefully, "It's the end of the month. 2 days ago, I logged into the guild's internal website. This month's contribution points. It seems that they haven't sent me." "Is that so?" Administrator Zhang frowned. "Let me check." He clicked on 2 web pages. Lu Fei wanted to take a look, but Administrator Zhang frowned. Stop. Don't look at what you shouldn't look at. I'll tell you if there's anything." Lu Fei shrunk his neck and waited angrily in place. A few seconds later, Administrator Zhang spoke again. "Yes, I found it. Your contribution points record is normal." "What?" Lu Fei's eyes widened. "How is that possible?" Manager Zhang waved his hand and said, "Stop, don't ask me. I'm only responsible for checking if there are any abnormalities. You can ask the logistics supervisor or the manager." Lu Fei held his breath. "Where's the supervisor?" "How would I know?" "You can call him." "I'll call him." Lu Fei suppressed his anger and left the logistics department's office. After dialing the number, Lu Fei pricked up his ears. There was a short beep, followed by a cold voice notification. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is unavailable." *CK Lu Fei was depressed. Ever since the elite team lost the competition, Lu Fei had become the god of plague. Everyone avoided him. Even Wu Guangming couldn't find him. The main team lost because they were useless. "Why are you blaming me?" Lu Fei felt wronged. For the sake of this tournament, I had to go to Jinghai University several times to treat Yan Jun, Ding Cheng, and the others to a meal. I also tried to find out more about Bai Xiaowen's strength. Then, I swallowed my pride and helped the guild to bribe Han Su. Even if I didn't get any credit for this, I should at least get credit for my hard work, right? What Lu Fei didn't know was that Wu Guangming also held a deep grudge against him. In the president's office, Wu Chonglian scolded Wu Guangming. "You useless thing. If you hadn't sworn that the information brought by Han Su was completely true and reliable, the main force wouldn't have suffered such a big setback because of trusting him so easily." Wu Guangming felt wronged. After I got the information, I confirmed it with Lu Fei. He was also collecting information and said that Han Su's information was exactly the same as what he knew. That's why I believed him. "Don't mention Lu Fei anymore," Wu Guangzong, who was sitting at the side, said with an ugly expression. "I can see that he's a piece of trash who can't survive." He couldn't collect any information about Bai Xiaowen at all, so when he saw the fake information given by Han Su, he treated it as a life-saving straw to fool us. It's a waste of resources to keep this kind of person in the guild. We should just fire him. Wu Chonglian sighed. Firing Lu Fei would cause too much of a commotion. If he makes a fuss and reveals that we bribed Han Su, even if we don't have any evidence, we'll still get into trouble. Let's ignore him for a while and wait for the aftermath of this failure to pass. White Phoenix's victory this time didn't have much of an impact. After all, it was only a Division B competition. Those Division A guilds didn't pay much attention to this competition. However, there was an exception. That was Ouyang Heng, who had a grudge with Bai Xiaowen. Qi Ruifeng was also with him. Both of them had grudges and rivalries with Bai Xiaowen. They were both in the same boat. Southern Cross Guild. Ouyang Heng, Qi Ruifeng, and their follower Wu Chaojia went online to watch White Phoenix's competition video. After watching it, the three of them fell into silence. Every time they saw Bai Xiaowen, his strength seemed to have improved. Even the teammates by Bai Xiaowen's side were getting stronger. Li Shi can actually suppress Wu Guangzong in a head-on battle. Her improvement is too great. Qi Ruifeng couldn't help but say. Ouyang Heng was also deeply moved. During the finals of the University League, Li Shi was only an elite. Although her equipment was good, Ouyang Heng didn't think much of her. Wu Guanzhong was different. He was one of the few experts in Division B. As a level 9 hero, if Wu Guanzhong wanted to join Division A, he would undoubtedly be qualified to be a starter. At the very least, Qi Ruifeng and Ouyang Heng couldn't compare to him. However, such a powerful Wu Guanzhong was vaguely suppressed by Li Shi. This improvement was too great for the two of them to imagine. Wu Chaojie was even more jealous. The target of his jealousy was naturally Han Su. Han Su, who was originally far inferior to him, had now grown to the point where he could withstand Wu Guanzhong's burst. Qi Ruifeng exhaled softly. We still have to cheer up. If Bai Xiaowen's team can improve so much, we can do it too. Next, we'll use our remaining mana points to buy Spirit World tickets and try to level up to level 8 in half a year. This way, we can at least qualify as substitutes in the main team. Ouyang Heng clenched his fists and silently nodded in agreement. Chapter 8:17. The local newspapers in Jinghai were still debating whether the White Phoenix battle team or the elite battle team was stronger. However, the White Phoenix battle team soon proved them wrong. In December, the White Phoenix battle team had won all their matches and every match ended with a score of 2-0. Including the previous few matches, the White Phoenix battle team had won 14 consecutive matches at the end of the month. Their current score was 42 points and they were tied with the Silver Frost battle team for first place in the Southeast Division. Here was the rules of the Division 2 regular season. Each match had a total of 3 points. If a team won with a score of 2-0, they would get all 3 points and the opponent would not get any points. If they won with a score of 2-1, the winner would get 2 points and the loser would get 1 point. A draw was extremely rare and of course, the rules were also stated. If there was a win, a loss and a draw, the two teams could only get 1 point each. The Silver Frost battle team was a team that was relegated from the Division 1 league. Although they were at the bottom of the Division 1 league, the strength of the Silver Frost battle team was definitely not to be underestimated. Moreover, after being relegated to the Division 2 league, the Silver Frost battle team's upper management learned from the painful experience and carried out a major reorganization of the main team. The original lazy atmosphere in the team was gone and there was a new atmosphere of destruction. After all, they were a team that had experienced the baptism of the Division 1 league. After the reorganization, the Silver Frost battle team performed well. Even the elite battle team lost to them with a score of 2-0. Many media in the Southeast Division began to take this new team seriously. Some people even listed the White Phoenix battle team as the favorite to win this year's Division 2 league. The local media in Jinghai City also quickly changed their direction and began to praise the White Phoenix battle team, especially Bai Xiaowen. He was at the peak of his debut and there was no situation where a rookie could not adapt to the competition. Bai Xiaowen did not care about what the news said. After the end of the month, the White Phoenix battle team would welcome another month of rest. This time, they would rest for 32 days before the next competition. The exploration of the new treasure space in the North Chio Desert was also put on the agenda and they were waiting for the official news. During this period, Bai Xiaowen gave the team a short break for everyone to rest for a few days. The exploration of the Sword Song realm and the previous training had made everyone nervous. It was time to strike a balance between work and rest and take a break. Her sister, Xiao Jun, finally seized the opportunity to pester Bai Xiaowen to go out with her on Sunday. Brother, you usually go to the spiritual realm, the training ground, or the competition. You can't even go home a few times a month. If this goes on, you'll lose this cute little sister of yours. Alright then, Bai Xiaowen also felt that he owed Xiaojun something. After all, he and Xiaojun were the only ones in the family who depended on each other. He was Xiaojun's only support. Although he was rich now, and his food and clothing were 10 times or 100 times better than before, he had too little time to spend with Xiaojun. This girl was still in puberty, and if he didn't pay attention, What would happen if she grew up crooked? Bai Xiaowen then drove Li Shi and Xiao Jun out shopping. As for Qiao Rui and Han Su, they said that they had something to do and did not come along. Xiao Jun was now in her second year of high school, and the school was Bai Xiaowen's alma mater, Red Flame High School. After Bai Xiaowen, the top scorer of the college entrance examination, Red Flame High School received resources from the Education Department of Jinghai City. Not only did they expand the teaching building, but they also installed modern training rooms, college entrance examination simulators, and so on. Many middle school students also made Red Flame High School their first choice. It developed rapidly and could be considered a first-class high school in Jinghai City. It was now the first semester of her second year of high school, and Xiao Jun was also faced with the choice of classes, whether to go to the liberal arts class to learn cultural knowledge and do logistics, or to go to the combat class to train and have the opportunity to become an awakened was difficult for many second-year students to choose. When filling in the class choice, Xiao Jun also asked for her brother's opinion. Bai Xiaowen suggested that she fill in the combat class. Even if she did not like the combat life of an awakened, it would not prevent Bai Xiaojun from becoming an awakened. Even if she was just an ordinary level 1 awakened, her social status was higher than that of an ordinary person. If Xiaojun could not adapt to the life of an awakened in the end, Bai Xiaowen planned to let Xiaojun manage the virtual store. Not only would she be able to live a carefree life for the rest of her life, but she would also have a certain status in the awakened circle as the owner of an A-grade store. In the end, Xiao Jun applied for the combat class. In the next semester, there would be a quality assessment. Because there were many people who applied for the combat class, a batch of them would be eliminated first. Naturally, Xiao Jun did not have to worry about being eliminated. Since the third year of middle school, she had been eating A-grade psionic recipes. Coupled with the training and the guidance of Bai Xiaowen and Li Shi in their free time, her physical fitness had improved rapidly. Now, her total attributes had exceeded 15 points. If Bai Xiaowen had not deliberately suppressed her and prevented her from using the strengthening potion, Xiao Jun would have already tried to break through the threshold of a quasi-awakened with a total attribute of 20 points. Bai Xiaowen had also taken a lot of effort to make this choice. Becoming a quasi-awakened meant that one had to accept the test and enter the spiritual realm as soon as possible. If one was too young, not only would they not have rich combat experience, but their social skills and ability to plan and do things would also be very poor. They would be at a disadvantage in the exploration of the spiritual realm. This was also the reason why awakened under the age of 16 were very rare. The bigger the family, the more cautious they would be. More haste, less speed. In addition, if one took the strengthening potion at the quasi-awakened stage, what would one do after becoming an awakened? This was equivalent to overdrawing one's potential in advance. It was not a good plan. Back then, Bai Xiaowen had only done this because he had no other choice. Of course, he did not want Xiao Jun to follow in his footsteps and follow Li Shi's footsteps. It would be better for her to slowly reach the 20 points of total attributes through the accumulation of strengthening recipes and training over time. Bai Xiaowen's plan was to wait until Xiao Jun was 16 years old and could get close to full marks in her general knowledge classes, including the additional exam. Then, he would let her go to the spiritual realm to awaken. Because his level was too high, Bai Xiaowen could no longer team up with Xiao Jun to help her pass the awakening mission. To be exact, only low-level awakened at level 3 or below could team up with a quasi-awakened to go to the spiritual realm to carry out the awakening mission. Moreover, the difficulty of the mission would be significantly increased. In most cases, it would be better for the quasi-awakened to take the test alone. Compared to 2 years ago, Xiao Jun's appearance and temperament were very different. The original Xiao Baiyang had grown up. With good nutrition and scientific exercise, Xiao Jun's figure was healthy and tall. Although she did not have a mature woman's figure like Sister Zhang's, she had already begun to take shape. Walking on the street, she was full of youthful vitality. After Bai Xiaowen accompanied Xiao Jun to buy a few clothes, they passed by a lingerie store. Bai Xiaowen was kicked out. Xiao Jun dragged Li Shi and nagged in the lingerie store. It seemed that she was ready to go on a shopping spree. This little girl's body is developing quite fast. Is her lingerie size not enough? Bai Xiaowen muttered, but his heart was full of peace and happiness. Suddenly, Dong Jididi's phone rang. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 818. Bai Xiaowen took out his phone and glanced at the caller ID. Li Beihai's granny grinning face was on the screen, baring her teeth. Hello. President. Xiao Bai, where are you? I've received a notice from the Awakened Association that the new space crack in the North Chiu Kingdom's desert has been completely stabilized and can allow the Awakened to officially enter. Bai Xiaowen replied, that's quite fast. I've only given the team members 3 days off. Li Beihai did not know whether to laugh or cry. Don't give them a break, recall them in advance. No one can say for sure how long the portal will be open for this kind of newly created space. Moreover, there are 3 teams competing. If we're late for an hour, the others may take the opportunity first. Bai Xiaowen certainly understood the importance of the matter and said, okay, I'll gather everyone immediately. Li Beihai continued, you don't have to come to the guild to find me. After gathering, lead the team directly to the Awakened Association. Li Beihai's words revealed a rare sense of urgency. This B-rank guild mission was a good opportunity for the super gods to turn things around. If the White Phoenix team could complete this B-rank guild mission well, then the super gods would not be so gossipy when they took on B-rank missions in the future. In addition, the first round of exploration of the new space could be very profitable. Li Beihai even had an extravagant hope in his heart. If the White Phoenix team could obtain the spatial stone in the treasure land and sign a development agreement with the Awakened Association, the super gods would not only have a stable source of income, but also increase their right to speak in the Circle of Awakened in Jinghai City. They would have the authority to manage the portal of a treasure land, and it was a newly developed treasure land. Then, when the treasure land opened every year, any awakened from guilds, universities and other institutions would have to give face to the super gods if they wanted to enter. Of course, extravagant hopes were just extravagant hopes. Li Beihai was still very rational. This possibility was relatively small. After all, there was still the participation of the main teams of the Giant Gods Guild and the Radiance Guild. Although the White Phoenix battle team was very strong, it was not realistic to say that they could surpass these 2 teams. After Bai Xiaowen hung up the phone, he glanced at Li Shi and Xiao Jun, who were choosing underwear in the lingerie shop. He thought for a moment and decided not to go in. Instead, he sent a simple message to Li Shi through the team channel. After a while, Li Shi came out with Xiao Jun. Both of them were carrying small bags. Xiao Jun, I'm sorry. I'll come out with you next time. Bai Xiaowen tapped Xiao Jun's smooth forehead. Xiao Jun looked a little disappointed, but she was still very sensible and knew that business was important. Other than pouting, Xiao Jun did not complain. Instead, she reminded Bai Xiaowen to be careful. The 3 of them drove back to the Super Gods Guild's underground training ground and found Han Su and Qiao Rui. It was worth mentioning that during the holidays, Han Su and Qiao Rui were still practicing their battle specialties in the training ground. Han Su's specialties were one-handed hammers. He felt that there was no future in being a pure tank, especially since his movement speed was slow. If he did not have any unique skills in attacking, it would be easy for others to bypass him and attack his teammates. Therefore, he wanted to make some breakthroughs in terms of damage output and control. Qiao Rui just happened to need to practice the Jade Forging Art's ability to absorb damage. It was important to note that circulating one's vital energy to absorb damage was not something that could be done with a silent command. One had to constantly control the flow of vital energy in one's body and turn it into an instinctive reaction. This way, it would not affect Qiao Rui's other actions in battle. After practicing for half a day, both of them felt that they had improved. Li Shi secretly stuck out her tongue. She felt that she was a little lazy to go out and play with them during the holidays. Even Bai Xiaowen felt that he was a little arrogant as a team leader. It had to be said that the environment had a huge impact on people. When one's teammates were training hard, one would also unconsciously have the motivation to become stronger. The atmosphere in the team was naturally positive. I just received a call from the president. The treasure portal in the North Chio Kingdom has been completely opened and we can enter at any time. Bai Xiaowen said straightforwardly, the important thing to note is that this exploration of the treasure portal is the first round of exploration. It will be different from the usual and will be very dangerous. Everyone can think of this exploration as the exploration of the spiritual world without completing the main mission. It will be even more demanding. Before someone activates the space stone, no one can leave the treasure portal unless they use a teleport scroll or something similar. Everyone was a little stunned. In the exploration of the spiritual world, if one did not complete the main mission, they could return as long as they were out of battle for 10 seconds. However, this new treasure portal was indeed more demanding. They could not even return for 10 seconds. After pausing for a few seconds, Bai Xiaowen continued, currently, in our team, the only ones who have a teleport scroll are me, Shuyi and Sister Qiao. Cecilia will not be counted for now. I plan to summon her to help when necessary after entering the treasure portal. I also have a bottle of holy water of resurrection to ensure her survival. Therefore, the only one who does not have a guarantee of safety is old Han. Han Su scratched his head. I think I am still the weakest. Bai Xiaowen smiled. My suggestion is that old Han does not participate in this exploration. According to the information I have read in previous experience, after entering the treasure portal, due to the effect of the spatial dislocation, our initial location will be random. We will not be separated and will be alone for a long time. Under such circumstances, if old Han encounters a crisis that he cannot handle, no one will be able to help you. Qiao Rui raised a different opinion. This exploration opportunity is very rare. Han Su should participate as much as possible. If he can't, I can give him the teleport scroll. Bai Xiaowen shook his head. No, Sister Qiao, don't be arrogant because of the jade forging technique. You should know that the jade forging technique only absorbs a little more than 100 points of damage in a single attack. The real power lies in the continuous damage reduction. If you really encounter a lord or a powerful leader with extremely high damage in a single attack, the other party has many ways to kill you, for example, me. Li Shi tried hard to keep a straight face. She had no choice. In front of the team, she had to protect Bai Xiaowen's dignity. She could not laugh. Qiao Rui opened her mouth to speak, but she suddenly remembered the high-level leaders from the Sword Song realm that Bai Xiaowen had killed. Which one of them did not have stronger internal energy than her? She did not refute this thought. Of course, it's up to old Han to decide whether to participate or not. I'm just giving a suggestion, Bai Xiaowen said. This was related to the team member's personal choice. He did not want to be a dictator. Han Su thought for a moment and said, I'll participate. Okay. Bai Xiaowen smiled. Han Su must have felt that his strength was not small compared to the average strength of the team. If he continued to be timid, he would be unable to keep up with the team's progress. Just based on Han Su's performance during the day's break, it could be seen that Han Su was still very strong. He did not want the team to give him equipment every time. Instead, he wanted to make contributions that were worthy of the team. Han Su's main problem was that he was not good at expressing himself. He did not express his thoughts and only said, I'll participate. It looked like he was singing a different tune to the team leader. If it was a narrow-minded person, they might have been dissatisfied. Bai Xiaowen was different. He could see through Han Su's thoughts and mentality at a glance. Naturally, he would not be angry. Other than Cecilia, who was in the White Stone Hill, the 4 members of the White Phoenix team made some simple preparations and gathered. They then drove to the Awakened Association. When they entered the building of the Awakened Association, President Yang personally received them. Li Beihai had already arrived with Li Chengbin and the others. The main purpose of this meeting was to issue the admission certificate. Now that the portal of the new space treasure in the North Chio Kingdom's desert was in a state of martial law, only those with the admission certificate issued by the association were allowed to enter. Of course, before the pass was issued, the White Phoenix team still had an important step to complete, which was to sign the letter of commitment. The content of the letter of commitment mainly included two things. The first was that during the exploration of the space treasure, no one was to maliciously attack the explorers of other teams. The second was that the guild that activated the Space Stone had to sign a cooperative development agreement with the Awakened Association. There were two forms of the letter of commitment. One of them was a contract document, which had the legal meaning of the Earth plane. The other was more binding on the Awakened. It was a virtual agreement notarized by the rules of the spirit realm, which urged the Awakened to carry out the terms of the original contract. Li Qingbin and the others had already read the contract. After confirming that there were no mistakes, Bai Xiaowen signed his name and then notarized the rules of the spirit realm with President Yang Yongkang. After a series of tedious steps, the White Phoenix team finally received the pass. Before leaving, Yang Yongkang took out a printed map and handed it to Bai Xiaowen. "This is the map of the new treasure place?" Bai Xiaowen was a little surprised. "No one has ever entered before. How can there be a map?" Yang Yongkang smiled and said, "Don't underestimate spirit energy technology. This is a simplified map that was deduced based on the real-time monitoring of the spirit energy particles in the new treasure land. It's just divided into different regions according to the altitude. This map is only an initial version and still needs to be perfected by you pioneers." Bai Xiaowen took the map and looked at it. The terrain of the new treasure place was not complicated. According to the obvious changes in altitude, it was divided into 21 areas, which were all labeled with numbers. For example, Area 1 was a highland, adjacent Area 2 was a woodland, and adjacent Area 4 was a valley. This initial map was not to be underestimated. When the Awakened first entered the new treasure place and were in the dark, this initial map could allow the Awakened to combine the actual terrain and quickly determine their position, making it easier to meet up with their teammates. After thanking President Yang Yongkang, Bai Xiaowen and the others bid farewell to Li Beihai and went straight to the North Chiu Desert. Before boarding the car, the White Phoenix team unexpectedly saw the arrival of another team. The person in the lead had muscles that were like copper and iron. His whole person was like a towering mountain. "Is that Ling Feng?" Bai Xiaowen had seen Ling Feng's photo before when he was at Jinghai University. He quickly realized that this team should be the main team of the city's veteran A-class guild, the Giant Gods Guild. Bai Xiaowen looked at Li Shi beside him. Li Shi also saw Ling Feng. She didn't have any special hostility. She just smiled and said, "Yes, it is indeed him. It's interesting to meet him this time." Bai Xiaowen smiled. Back then, the Giant Gods Guild had poached Ling Feng, causing the rapid decline of the Super Gods Guild. Bai Xiaowen had also heard of the feud between the two guilds. Seeing that Li Shi had let go of the past, Bai Xiaowen was also relieved. Ling Feng also saw the few members of the White Phoenix team. He paused for a moment, as if carefully sizing up Bai Xiaowen, and then led his 4 teammates into the building. "Did you see clearly?" Bai Xiaowen looked sideways at his teammates. Qiao Rui said, "Their levels are not low, but not as high as we thought. Including Ling Feng, there are 4 people who are level 9 and only 1 person is level 10. Looking at the template, including Ling Feng, there are a total of 3 hero professions. It's not as good as our team's configuration." Li Shi muttered. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 8:19. Bai Xiaowen shook his head slightly. The strength of an awakened cannot be determined by their template and level alone. His teammates all looked over at him. Compared to other people who could only determine the template's level through the fluctuation of psionic particles, Bai Xiaowen's insight was undoubtedly more accurate. Bai Xiaowen said, "Let's just talk about Ling Feng. I just scanned him with my insight and found 3 unknown skills." "So many?" Qiao Rui was somewhat surprised. "He is only 2 levels higher than you. According to the rules, it is normal that at most one of his skills cannot be detected. there was a chance that insight would not detect any skills when facing a target whose level was higher than the user's. Such a situation would occur when Bai Xiaowen was probing a high-level boss in the spirit realm. However, with a difference of 2 levels, there should not be 3 unknown question marks. Bai Xiaowen exhaled softly. The last time this happened was in the Aran Plain, when I was probing the fake Prince Richard. I am of the same level as him. Logically speaking, I should be able to detect all his skills. However, 2 of his skills were displayed as unknown. Han Su was dumbfounded. What fake Prince Richard? He had never seen him before. However, Bai Xiaowen also knew that he could not mention the words Starlink and Quell territory in front of Han Su to avoid triggering the confidentiality punishment of the spirit realm's rules. Therefore, he always referred to them as fake Prince Richard. Li Shi thought for a moment and said in realization, "You mean awakening skills?" Bai Xiaowen nodded. Although there are not many awakened with awakening skills, this should be the reason. Awakening skills cannot be detected by insight. In other words, Ling Feng has at least 2 awakening skills, at most, 3 awakening skills. The car started and slowly drove out of the Awakened Association's gate. However, everyone in the car was silent for a moment as they digested this shocking news. Even Han Su, who did not know much about awakening skills, could feel the weight of awakening skills. The first step of Li Shi's awakening skill chain quest required his single-handed swordsmanship to reach level 10. He did not know what other conditions were required. However, if an awakened could meet the conditions for awakening a skill, it at least proved that the awakened had a very strong foundation. Of course, Li Shi chose the A+ level awakening skill mission, which was extremely difficult. If it was a grade lower, the conditions should be lower. However, no matter how low the conditions were, the power of an awakening skill would always be much stronger than an ordinary skill. Ling Feng, who had more than 2 awakening skills, would be very powerful. Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "All right, it seems like there's still a certain gap between us and the old A-ranked guild teams." However, the difference wasn't that big. Furthermore, we have an agreement in place for this exploration. No malicious attacks are allowed. For the time being, our battle team won't have the pressure of directly facing the strong teams of the A-League. When the day comes that we really have to face them, I believe that we will have already made sufficient preparations. Everyone nodded. Bai Xiaowen said this to calm the team down and not be too impetuous. After all, it was a 14-match winning streak. Moreover, it was very likely that they would continue to win in the following matches. It was very easy for people to become arrogant. After a 5-hour journey, the White Phoenix team arrived at the North Chiu Kingdom. This was a semi-desertified hill, which was a new landform formed in the era of spiritual ability. The area was already under martial law. After checking the entry certificate, the White Phoenix team took the lead and stepped into the spatial crack of the new treasure land. White light flashed and everyone's figures disappeared one by one. "It's so cold." Just as the scenery in front of him froze, Bai Xiaowen felt a chill. In this new treasure land, the temperature was at least 10 degrees lower than the outside world. It was as if it was the coldest winter. The sky was pale white and the ground was shrouded in a thin layer of fog. There was a stifling feeling in his heart. Bai Xiaowen looked around and chose a direction to move in. He tried to determine his position based on the terrain, but soon found that it was futile. After all, the printed version of the map was too crude. Bai Xiaowen tried to shout in the team channel, but no one answered. He didn't know if his teammates were too far away to hear him or if they heard him, but their mental strength was not enough to support a response from such a distance. "Let's confirm our position first and move closer to the center." This was also something that Bai Xiaowen had discussed with his teammates. After walking for a while, babbling sounds came from the thin fog in front of them. 2 small black figures ran over, skipping and hopping. As they got closer, Bai Xiaowen saw that they were 2 children. There are natives in this treasure land space. That's right, it's the first round of exploration. Bai Xiaowen thought to himself, if there are natives, I'll ask for directions. I hope I've learned the language they use. This treasure land space was different from the spiritual world. After the awakened entered, they could not automatically learn the common language of the plane. Bai Xiaowen could only pray for the best. Unexpectedly, just as Bai Xiaowen stood still, the two children brushed past him as if they did not see him. Their babbling laughter echoed in the thin fog. Excuse me, Bai Xiaowen had just started speaking when the other party had already brushed past him. Bai Xiaowen turned around and looked at the backs of the two children, a little surprised. It feels a little strange. Perhaps it was because one of the children with a bun turned around and glanced at Bai Xiaowen when he heard the word excuse me. With this glance, Bai Xiaowen felt a chill crawl from his heels to the back of his head. The child had no white in his eyes. His eyes were completely black. Under his eyelids, there were 2 streaks of blood. The child's figure disappeared in the fog. A nursery rhyme, accompanied by babbling sounds, echoed in the thin fog. There are strangers in and out of the village. Ignore them, ignore them. Don't open the door when strangers knock. Wait until mother comes home. Protect yourself. I'm mother's good baby. It was a good nursery rhyme, but Bai Xiaowen felt his hair stand on end when he heard it. Those 2 children are ghosts. They even sang nursery rhymes about mother, village. Bai Xiaowen looked in the direction where the 2 children came from. In the fog ahead, there were faintly undulating hills. The so-called natives in this space. Are they all ghosts? However, ghosts could scare ordinary people, but they could not scare Bai Xiaowen. He thought for a moment, then chased in the direction where the 2 children disappeared. Anyway, with the nursery rhyme and laughter, he was not afraid of losing them. Losing the ghosts. Strangely, Bai Xiaowen sped up, but he could not catch up with the 2 ghosts. When Bai Xiaowen sped up, the other party also sped up. When Bai Xiaowen slowed down, after a while, the other party would also slow down. After running for about 10 miles, the nursery rhyme suddenly disappeared. Bai Xiaowen stopped in his tracks. He was surprised to see that there were a few small graves in front of him that were covered with grass. Chapter 820. Among the clumps of grass, there were small white flowers swaying gently in the breeze. These flowers seemed to be medicinal herbs. Bai Xiaowen moved closer. As a pharmacist, he had a keen sense of medicinal herbs. Using his insight on a small white flower, Bai Xiaowen obtained information. Jade phosphorus flower, flowers and plants condensed from yin energy and resentment. It has a certain medicinal value. Although he had never seen this flower before, and there was no record of it in the Encyclopedia of Pharmaceutics, Bai Xiaowen could still infer a reasonable way to harvest the jade phosphorus flower based on its appearance. If it were an awakened person without a foundation in pharmaceutics, the flower's appearance might be damaged due to careless harvesting. Pushing aside the leaves, Bai Xiaowen gently lifted the flower's stem and pulled out the flower's stem inch by inch. Then, he kneaded the soil near the jade phosphorus flower's root into a small ball and wrapped it around the delicate stem. After harvesting, Bai Xiaowen could see the composition and age of the jade phosphorus flower. Take a sample and give it to the Awakened Association for research. I'll harvest more as backup. Bai Xiaowen had no qualms about grave mounds. He directly plucked all the jade phosphorus flowers in this small cemetery and placed them in the storage space. This was the advantage of the treasure space. He could take away any psionic item he obtained without any psionic particle resonance. While plucking the flowers, Bai Xiaowen still retained some energy to be alert of the surrounding situation. Suddenly, he heard light footsteps. Standing up straight, Bai Xiaowen looked in the direction of the sound. He saw a gray-haired, hunchbacked old woman slowly walking toward him with a cane. Indigenous person? Or ghost? Bai Xiaowen used his insight, but he received a prompt. The target is protected by the white stone. Immune to all damage and unable to be targeted. There was actually an untargetable target. White stone, what is it? A treasure? Bai Xiaowen deeply felt that this treasure space hid a secret. Since it was immune to damage, there was no need to try offensive methods. "Young man, what are you doing here?" The old woman raised her face. Her face was full of wrinkles, and she looked very old. She spoke the same way as the nursery rhyme earlier, in Mandarin, but with a slight local accent. Bai Xiaowen carefully sized up the old woman. The old woman looked quite normal. At least from her appearance, she didn't look like a ghost. "I chased after the two kids and wanted to ask for directions." Bai Xiaowen decided not to tell the truth. "Child?" The old woman looked at Bai Xiaowen with her cloudy eyes. "This is a graveyard. How can there be a child?" "Young man, you must be mistaken." "Maybe?" Bai Xiaowen followed her words. "Old lady, what are you doing in the graveyard?" "Someone has to look after the grave and sweep it." The old woman sighed. "Everyone in Huiking village is busy with their own matters. Only an old woman like me has nothing better to do, so I was sent here to look after the grave." As she spoke, the old woman pointed at a low thatched cottage not far away. A string of white paper money was hanging at the door of the thatched cottage. It swayed in the wind and made a slight rustling sound. Bai Xiaowen finally heard the name of the place. He hurriedly said, "Old lady, I want to go to Huiking village. Please show me the way." The old woman opened her toothless mouth and revealed an ugly smile. "You're not from Huiking village, are you? The villagers aren't very hospitable. Old lady, I advise you to leave as soon as possible." "It's fine. I'm not going there as a guest." Bai Xiaowen revealed a harmless smile. "Sigh. If you really want to go, Huiking village is in this direction." The old woman pointed behind her with her skinny finger. Finally, she said, "But I still advise you to go back. When you get home, don't forget to go to the temple to pray to the Bodhisattva and burn some paper money." "Thanks." Bai Xiaowen walked in the direction of Huiking village. However, he didn't walk far before secretly summoning the shadow assassin. He entered stealth mode and returned to the thatched cottage in the graveyard. He planned to monitor the old woman's movements. Where's she?" The shadow assassin returned to the thatched cottage and peeked around. There was no one in the cottage. He looked around the graveyard again. It was also empty. There was not a single person in sight. The old woman seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was no trace of her. The shadow assassin entered the thatched cottage. Bai Xiaowen saw from the shared vision that there was only a broken table and two shabby stools in the cottage. They were covered in dust. No one had lived here for a long time. From this, it seems that the old woman is most likely a ghost and not a gravekeeper. She's immune to damage. My attacks are ineffective. I can only find that serene white stone first before I make any plans. As for the direction of Huiking village that the old woman had pointed out, Bai Xiaowen planned to go there and take a look. Why does it feel like something's wrong? Bai Xiaowen took 2 steps and suddenly felt a chill on his back. It was as if someone was blowing at the back of his neck. He turned around, but there was nothing. Bai Xiaowen took a few more steps. However, he felt that his stamina was being depleted. His steps were not as light as usual. The chill on his back grew stronger and stronger. However, when he turned around, he saw nothing. Bai Xiaowen opened his attribute panel and looked at his status. What he saw was a horrifying shock. Evil possession, you have been possessed by something unclean. It may cause unknown effects. Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes. He raised his hand and summoned the vampire Kits. "Yo, boss!" Kits greeted him casually. He suddenly hugged his arms and shrunk his neck. It's so cold here." "You're a vampire and you're afraid of the cold?" Bai Xiaowen said helplessly. It's a habit." Kits glanced at Bai Xiaowen and then shouted, boss, who are you carrying on your back?" Bai Xiaowen raised his eyebrows. "There's someone behind me?" "You're the one carrying her." Kits scratched his head. "No way, there's such a heavy person on your back. Can't you feel it?" Tell me what that thing looks like. Even though Bai Xiaowen was brave, he still felt a bit scared. He felt that his back had indeed become a bit heavier. It was as if there was an extra person's weight on his back. Kit scratched his ears and cheeks. Long hair, covering the face. I can't see the face clearly. But it should be a woman? Her nails are quite long. Why are there bloodstains on her clothes? Stop. When Kit said long hair, Bai Xiaowen suddenly felt a cold strand of hair touch the back of his neck. When he said long nails, Bai Xiaowen felt as if sharp nails had scratched his shoulder. When he said bloodstains, Bai Xiaowen immediately smelled a strong stench of blood. Bai Xiaowen reacted quickly. He stopped Kit's, not allowing him to continue describing. Before Kit's described it, I only felt cold. But after he described it, the filthy thing on my back became clearer little by little. Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes. Originally, he could share his vision with his summoned creatures and see the thing on his back without turning his head. However, he didn't dare to do so now. Chapter 821. Kit's was a bit puzzled. Boss, why are you so serious? Isn't it just an undead? I'll get rid of her. After learning the blood god mantra, Kit's had become much more arrogant than before. He didn't care about anything else, and directly slapped at Bai Xiaowen's back. With a muffled thud, Bai Xiaowen's back was hit. He took 2 steps forward, and received a few dozen points of damage. Hey! Bai Xiaowen glanced at Kit's. What are you doing? Kit's was also startled. That's weird, boss. I was clearly slapping at her, but it was like I was slapping at air. It was just an illusion. Generally speaking, summoned creatures couldn't move freely, but Kit's and butchers were a bit special. They had a certain level of self-awareness. Of course, even if they had self-awareness, Kit's couldn't intentionally attack with the goal of injuring Bai Xiaowen. That violated the basic principles of summoned creatures. The damage he had just inflicted wasn't a malicious attack on his master, but an accidental injury. Ordinary attacks could cause accidental injuries, because there was no identification between friend and foe. Spells and skills, however, didn't. This was the difference between the two. Bai Xiaowen unhappily glared at Kit's. Don't act rashly. This treasure space is very strange. It should be a space dominated by Eastern ghosts and monsters. They're all demon types, very different from you undead types. Bai Xiaowen had encountered demons before, such as the King of Black Zombie and the White Ghost. Jumping zombies and ghosts were commonly seen demons, and their fighting styles were relatively normal. But Bai Xiaowen also knew that there were special groups of demons with all sorts of inconceivable abilities, and that he had to be extra careful. After Kit's attacked, Bai Xiaowen felt that the female ghost on his back was becoming clearer and more real. She even had the breath of a human, but what she exhaled was bone-chilling cold. The female ghost didn't attack Bai Xiaowen for the time being. She was just a bit uncomfortable. But carrying a ghost on his back all the time wasn't a good idea. Bai Xiaowen thought for a moment, and then summoned Delifa. Delifa's spiritual spears dealt extra damage to spiritual beings, ghosts and souls. Of course, now that the female ghost was under the protection of the White Stone, she could not be targeted and was immune to damage. Delifa's spiritual spear could only slash through the air and could not do anything to her for now. Master, this ghost is immune to attacks. We can only kill her after we destroy the thing that's protecting her, Delifa said. Bai Xiaowen nodded. A buff that's immune to all damage. That's too invincible. I don't think it's a normal ability. Well, I already have an idea. Let's test it out first. Bai Xiaowen turned around and walked quickly to the tombs and the thatched huts. He waved his hand and summoned 6 skeletons with swords and shields. Flatten this place and dig out all the bones in the grave. Skeleton swordsmen and shield-bearers were not good at fighting, but they were good at demolishing buildings. They were very strong and tireless. They used the machetes in their hands as shovels and shoveled at the tombs. Before the first shovel hit the ground, a sharp shriek sounded. It was aimed at the back of Bai Xiaowen's head, and it hurt his eardrums. "Master, be careful," Delifa warned. The female ghost lifted her long hair that covered her face, revealing a pale face. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she looked like a night owl that had not slept for days. With this shriek, the female ghost's claws became extremely long, and she clawed at Bai Xiaowen's neck. "Now!" Bai Xiaowen shouted in a deep voice, "Delifa." Delifa responded, and the spiritual spear suddenly stabbed at the female ghost's back. The moment the spear touched the female ghost's back, she let out a miserable howl. Then she quickly retracted her claws, and her figure once again became illusory and traceless. Fortunately, it was Delifa who made the move. Her fighting skills were extremely high, and she had already reached the point where she could control her spear at will. After the female ghost became immune to damage again and could not target her, the spear did not follow the momentum and pierced through Bai Xiaowen's back. It almost touched Bai Xiaowen's cloak and stopped. Not even the slightest bit of damage was inflicted. "Tisk." Kit stared blankly from the side, and muttered, "Madame Delifa is so powerful." Bai Xiaowen attacked Kit's. "Delifa doesn't even need me to control her in battle. She can display perfect fighting strength. Kits, you still have to train. Don't think that you're invincible just because you learned a little bit of internal energy." Kit shrunk his neck. "Boss, we'll talk about training later. Let's get down to business first. Just now, I saw that the female ghost seemed to have been stabbed by Madame Delifa and caused damage." Bai Xiaowen nodded. That's what I thought. This ghost, as long as she doesn't attack on her own initiative, she'll always be immune to damage. But if she attacks on her own initiative, in that instant, she'll no longer be immune to external damage. This is also why she's lying on my back but hasn't immediately made her move. She's always been looking for an opportunity. Kit saw that the female ghost on Bai Xiaowen's back revealed a malicious expression. While Bai Xiaowen was talking, her sharp fingernails scratched the air, making all kinds of scratching, gouging eyes, and so on. It was a rather frightening sight. But looking at Bai Xiaowen, although he could sense the female ghost's movements, his expression was normal. He even laughed and said, "What you're doing is useless. You're just a paper tiger. If you don't come down, I'll really tear down your child's grave." Seeing that the female ghost didn't respond, Bai Xiaowen immediately ordered the skeleton swordsman to continue forcefully tearing down the grave. Very soon, the first grave was dug up, and a rotten smell spread out. "Boss, there's a child's skeleton inside." Kits crouched down and picked up half of a piece of cloth stained with mud. He could vaguely see that it was a tattered piece of a red doo-doo. "My home!" A child with completely black eyes and bloodstains under his eyes appeared. With a shrill cry, he pounced at Kits. The instant the child attacked, Bai Xiaowen used insight. He could finally see the information. Ghost baby, normal level 8, race, demon/ghost, attributes, strength 21, agility 30, constitution 22, spirit 19, skill 1, formless illusion, race passive ability, omitted. Skill 2, ghost claw, passive. The ghost baby's normal attacks will cause magic damage, as well as additional damage equal to its spirit value. Kit slapped down, but he hit empty air. The ghost baby's formless illusion had taken effect. In a moment of carelessness, Kits was scratched by the ghost baby's claws. He instinctively activated the Blood God Sutra's true chi to defend himself, so he wasn't hurt. After all, the ghost baby was just a normal creature. Its attack power was too weak. Seeing that Kits was in a sorry state, Delifa suddenly flapped its wings. The moment the ghost baby attacked a second time, a long spear pierced through the ghost baby's head. With a miserable howl, the ghost baby turned into a cloud of black mist and disappeared. "Wait." Bai Xiaowen stopped the skeleton swordsman from tearing down the grave. His expression was serious. The moment the ghost baby died, he received a notification for a side mission. Special side mission, Ghostly White Stone, activated. Mission objective: enter Huiking Village to find the ghost bride and obtain the ghostly white stone. Mission difficulty: data in disorder, unable to evaluate. Mission duration: data in disorder, unable to evaluate. Mission reward: data in disorder, unable to evaluate. Mission hint: the villagers of Huiking Village are very xenophobic. The villagers who are celebrating do not like to be disturbed by outsiders. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 822. Soon, the second mound was torn apart. Another ghost baby appeared and attacked, but it was killed by Delifa. 2 ghost babies were killed in a row, and Bai Xiaowen did not stop. He looked like he would not stop until he tore this place apart. Finally, the female ghost behind him could not hold back any longer. With a shrill shriek, the female ghost's hair suddenly grew long and tightly wrapped around Bai Xiaowen's body, binding him. At the same time, 7 or 8 ghost babies rushed out of the graveyard and screamed as they charged at Delifa. Bai Xiaowen struggled with all his might, but he realized that he could not break free from the black hair. This hair was probably not real hair, but the materialization of some kind of resentment. With Delifa trapped by the ghost babies, the female ghost used this opportunity to extend her nails, wanting to stab Bai Xiaowen's neck. Bai Xiaowen smiled. Do you really think Delifa is your only counter? Naive. With a thought, the black light from the black soul stone flashed, and the necromancer appeared. A bolt of lightning struck down. Bai Xiaowen's timing was very precise. The moment the female ghost's nails touched Bai Xiaowen's skin, the lightning struck. With a shrill scream, the female ghost's black hair was disheveled like a cat with its fur standing on end. The black hair that wrapped around Bai Xiaowen broke inch by inch. Under the effect of the lightning strike Taoist technique, the female ghost finally could not take it anymore and broke free from Bai Xiaowen's back. Bai Xiaowen suddenly turned around and used Dark Flick. Flames engulfed the female ghost, turning her into a human-shaped torch, and she flew backward. This scene seemed slow, but in reality, it happened as fast as lightning. The female ghost wailed and turned into a black fog, dissipating miserably. As for the ghost babies that were under her control, they all dispersed. There was no treasure chest on the ground where the female ghost died. There was only a pale fragment that floated slightly. Bai Xiaowen touched this fragment. You received a special item, Host Ghost's Spirit, Fragment. Collect more fragments and you can combine them into a Host Ghost's Spirit. Host Ghost Spirit allows you to disguise yourself as a host ghost. Bai Xiaowen read the instructions silently and began to think. This female ghost is called a host ghost? However, her strength was much weaker than I had imagined. It's a pity that I didn't manage to find any information about her. But no matter how I look at it, she doesn't seem like a commander tier ghost. I guess she could be considered an elite tier ghost. The host ghost mainly relied on the protection of the serene white stone to wreak havoc. Its attack power was very weak. What it had shown just now was only the black hair binding technique. Judging from the prompt, the special item Spirit of the Host was still very important in this treasure space. However, Bai Xiaowen did not know where to find more host ghosts to kill. He could only head to Huiking Village and see what he could find along the way. Unlike Bai Xiaowen, Qiao Rui was lucky. After releasing the Spirit of the Falcon, Qiao Rui found Han Su within an hour. The two of them met up. However, the Spirit of the Falcon was now in cooldown. It would not be so easy for Qiao Rui to find Han Su. Old Han, did you encounter anything strange? Qiao Rui asked. Han Su nodded. I met a strange child. It ran very fast. And then? Qiao Rui asked, did you chase after it? Han Su shook his head. I want to meet up with everyone first. Qiao Rui nodded approvingly. That's right. In this godforsaken place, safety is our #1 priority. If you're not as freakishly strong as Captain, it's best not to get yourself killed. After a pause, Qiao Rui said, I can feel that there are many ghosts whispering here. However, they seem to dislike communicating with me, so I can't get any valuable information. Let's find Captain and Li Shi first. While they were talking, a voice suddenly appeared in the team channel. It was Li Shi. Sister Qiao, Hansu, I can see you. Li Shi's voice had a hint of urgency. Don't move. I'm coming to find you. Prepare for battle. Qiao Rui was slightly startled. He immediately used his psychic power to search. What's wrong with Li Shi? Hansu asked. She's here. There seems to be some trouble with her. Qiao Rui quickly caught sight of Li Shi's trace and looked over. Li Shi came out from behind a dense forest. He hurriedly ran in their direction, shouting as he ran, "Be careful. There's a ghost behind me. It's chasing me." Behind Li Shi, a black shadow could be vaguely seen. Qiao Rui took out his soul bamboo flute and comforted him. It's okay. Let's destroy it together. However, before Li Shi could reach Qiao Rui, Li Shi's familiar voice came from behind. Be careful. That's a ghost. Don't let her get close to you. Hansu and Qiao Rui were a little confused. They looked up and saw a second shadow come out from behind the dense forest. It had a ponytail and a ghost mask on her head. She wore a flowing silver robe and held two swords in her hands. Who else could it be but Li Shi? The two of them looked suspiciously at the first Li Shi. The latter said in a panic, don't be fooled by her. She's fake. She's disguised as me. I'm the real one. The second Li Shi angrily said, You damned ghost, how dare you distort the truth? Watch me hack you to death. She rushed over with a barbaric charge, thrusting her two swords at high speed, her swordsmanship exquisite. Looks like the second one is the real one, said Qiao Rui, raising his soul bamboo flute to his lips. Hansu also picked up his wrench and prepared to help. Unexpectedly, the first Li Shi turned around and started fighting with the second Li Shi. For swords whistled through the air and clanged incessantly. They were all using the same swordsmanship. No one could do anything to the other. One side used blood drain, the other side used demonic fire dance. Even the skills attached to their equipment were revealed. It was impossible to tell the real one from the fake one. Hansu's eyes widened. What should he do? Qiao Rui thought for a moment and shouted sternly, All of you, stop. Whoever doesn't stop is the fake one. The two Li Shi stopped at the same time and jumped back. Sister Qiao, I'm the real one. The first Li Shi said with an aggrieved expression. Sister Qiao, don't be fooled. This ghost is too cunning. The second Li Shi said angrily. Qiao Rui stopped the two of them for safety reasons. After all, the two Li Shis had high attack and low defense. If something went wrong and the real Li Shi was killed by the fake, then it would be over. After thinking for a moment, Qiao Rui said, I have a way to tell if you're the real one. Next, I'll give an order in the team channel. The real Li Shi can receive the secret message in the team channel and can follow the order. As for the ghost, even if it imitates the real one, it will be slower by half a beat. Hansu, watch carefully. Focus on the fake one and rush over to her. Chapter 823. The atmosphere suddenly froze. The two Li Shi stared at Qiao Rui, waiting for her orders. In the team channel, Qiao Rui purposely paused for a few seconds, then said, Shi, throw away your swords and do a backflip. Hansu, crash. The sound of weapons falling to the ground could be heard at the same time. The two Li Shi threw away their swords at almost the same time, did a backflip, and landed steadily on the ground. Hansu was dumbfounded. He shook his head and said, I can't tell which one is fake. Qiao Rui couldn't tell which one was fake either. She said with some surprise, That's strange. Can the ghost that has taken on Shi's appearance detect the communication in the team channel? Suddenly, in the team channel, the Li Shi's voice could be heard. Sister Qiao, be careful of the one on your right. It's a ghost, Qiao Rui immediately understood. It seemed that the one speaking, the Li Shi on her left, was the real one. She gave Hansu a look. Unexpectedly, before Hansu could do anything, another Li Shi's voice could be heard in the team channel. It sounded a little flustered and exasperated. "That's not right. This ghost can enter our team channel. It was the ghost talking just now. It's framing me." Qiao Rui and Hansu looked at each other. The two of them were in a dilemma. The team channel was supposed to be the best tool to distinguish the real from the fake, but now that the channel had been infiltrated by a ghost, they were in trouble. Qiao Rui came up with another idea. "How about this? We talk about some things that we've experienced together to distinguish the real from the fake." "Okay. No problem." The two Li Shi were full of fighting spirit. They agreed at the same time. Then, they quickly looked at each other and glared angrily at each other. Even their personalities are perfectly imitated. Qiao Rui shook her head slightly. She was a little uncertain. Qiao Rui asked the first Li Shi, "When did I join the team?" The first one, Li Shi, blinked and quickly replied, "Sister Qiao joined the team during the exploration of the Aran Planar world 2 years ago. At first, she was only a temporary member. Later, when the team was upgraded and there were new official members, she became an official member." Qiao Rui was just about to nod when the second Li Shi heard his words and shouted angrily, "No! This ghost even knows this, it must be able to read minds or something. Sister Qiao, I'm the real one. Then you should also answer a question." Qiao Rui thought for a while and asked, "Captain has a sister. What's her name?" The second Li Shi said quickly, "Her full name is Bai Xiaojun, and her nickname is Xiaojun. She is now a sophomore at Qihua High School." "All right, stop. Qiao Rui rubbed her forehead with a headache. "I can't tell. Now, we can only wait for Captain to join us. His insight talent will definitely be able to distinguish the real one from the fake." The second Li Shi suddenly picked up the 2 swords on the ground and said angrily to the first Li Shi, "You're so evil, I'll kill you now." The first Li Shi also picked up the 2 swords. "All right, you're the first to complain. I'm not afraid of you." Both of them had the same level of agility, and their attacks were extremely fast. Ping 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 pang 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 sounds could be heard as they fought. "Stop fighting. Let's wait for Captain to come." Qiao Rui said helplessly, "Shi, what if you get hurt by the ghost? Old Han and I can't protect you." The second Li Shi said loudly, "Sister Qiao, don't worry. If I really can't beat this ghost and encounter fatal danger, I'll use the town portal scroll." "She knows about the town portal scroll?" Qiao Rui's heart skipped a beat. However, the first Li Shi opened her mouth and scolded angrily, "I was just about to say that, but you stole my words. You shameless rascal." Qiao Rui was unsure again. If the ghost really knew how to read minds, it was possible that she could read Li Shi's thoughts and say the town portal scroll first. Hansu asked in a low voice, "What should we do?" Qiao Rui observed the two's battle and said in a low voice, "Let them fight first and see if there are any flaws. Anyway, they'll stop when they're tired. Now, we can't separate. We have to stay in each other's line of sight because we can't rule out the possibility of other ghosts that can imitate the ghost. If there's another ghost like you, who should I trust?" Hansu nodded in agreement. "We can only wait for the captain to come and save the day." Qiao Rui said faintly, "But there's another problem. Can you be sure that the one who comes will be the captain himself and not a ghost in disguise?" Bai Xiaowen climbed over a mountain. In front of him was a valley shrouded in thick fog. In this space, the other areas are covered by a thin layer of fog. Only this place is shrouded in thick fog. It's so thick that I can't see anyone on the other side. Is there some secret hidden here? Or is Huaiwang village behind this fog? It wasn't strange for there to be fog, but the fog here was especially thick and didn't dissipate. It was very strange. Bai Xiaowen tried to walk forward, but he realized that the fog was bone-chilling. His HP and MP were slowly decreasing. "Oh no, I can't keep going forward." Bai Xiaowen immediately retreated from the fog. He looked at his HP and MP, which were quickly recovering, and breathed a sigh of relief. He had to admit that the passive vitality skill of the dark gold equipment, purple ribbon cloud brocade robe, was very useful. It was a supportive skill that didn't reveal its true potential. It could greatly increase an awakened's battle endurance. The ghost fog here reminds me of the lingering yin energy effect I encountered in the Dead Soul Lake. The lingering yin energy acts as a barrier to recovery and doesn't cause any damage. Even living people can move within the range of the yin energy, but they can't fight fiercely. However, the ghost fog here directly deducts HP and MP. It feels more sinister than the ghost fog here. Bai Xiaowen flipped his palm, and the fragment of the host ghost appeared. It seems that the key to entering the fog lies in the disguise of the host ghost's spirit. In other words, I'll have to kill enough ghosts in the fog and piece them together to disguise myself. Bai Xiaowen's mind was very divergent. Although it had only been 2 or 3 hours of exploration, he had a rough understanding of the situation in this space. Suddenly, a voice sounded in the teen channel. "I'm Hansu." "Captain, where are you? I just heard you shouting." "It's Hansu." Bai Xiaowen was slightly surprised. He immediately scanned with his MP and found Hansu's position. He was less than 200 meters away from him. With Hansu's pitiful MP, he could at most send a message in the team channel to an area with a radius of less than 200 meters. Fortunately, he was close enough to Bai Xiaowen to let Bai Xiaowen receive his team channel private message. After the team members entered the treasure space, they shouted in the channel regularly and quickly gathered. This was also the strategy that Bai Xiaowen had set in advance. The last time he shouted was 5 minutes ago, and he also reported the general terrain of his vicinity. It seemed that Hansu had heard Bai Xiaowen's shout and came all the way here. "Old Han, continue to walk forward from your position. After you turn around the call, I'll be in front of you," Bai Xiaowen said through the team channel. Soon, Hansu's burly figure walked out of the mountains and the two finally met up. "Captain, I've finally found you." Hansu sighed softly. "This treasure space is very strange. It's different from the ones we've encountered before." Bai Xiaowen nodded and said with a smile, "After all, this is the first time we've explored this kind of unexplored treasure space. It's normal for something new to happen." "What strange thing did you encounter?" Hansu said, "I just saw a childlike shadow running past. I couldn't catch up with it. After walking for a while, I felt colder and colder. It felt like there was something behind me that kept blowing at the back of my neck. It was very creepy." Perhaps it was the first time he had encountered such a strange space, but Hansu, who had always been taciturn, became talkative. "Well, you should have encountered a ghost baby and a host ghost." Bai Xiaowen looked behind Hansu. "But the host ghost is gone now. Did you kill it?" Hansu shook his head. "I don't know. I just didn't look back. After a while, I heard someone calling my name. Since it wasn't a familiar voice, I ignored it. After a while, the thing behind me disappeared." "You could resist not looking back?" Bai Xiaowen asked curiously. He himself had turned back immediately, although he didn't see the host ghost. Hansu nodded and said, "When I was young, Grandpa said that people have 3 breaths of yang energy. It's like 3 lamps, one on the head and one on each shoulder. Ghosts are afraid of people's yang energy, so it will attract people to look back. If they look back, their breaths will blow out the lamp on their shoulders. Every time they exhale, 1 lamp will be extinguished. Every time they exhale, 2 lamps will be extinguished. Then, the ghost will come out to harm people." Bai Xiaowen fell silent. How many times did he look back? Hansu said a little embarrassedly, "This is a story I heard when I was young. It doesn't count. I've made a fool of myself in front of you." Bai Xiaowen said leisurely, "Many of the fantasy elements in the spirit world come from the stories and legends of the various civilizations on Earth. These stories passed down by word of mouth might not be fake in the spirit world era." Then, Bai Xiaowen briefly explained his encounter and his general speculation about this treasure land. Finally, he said, I suspect that Huaiwang village is in the depths of this thick fog. If we want to go in, we have to collect the fragments dropped by ghosts and piece them together to disguise ourselves. Let's go. We might even meet Xiaorui and Shui on the way. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile reading website. Chapter 824. On a plain, Bai Xiaowen and Han Su walked one after the other. There seems to be a light in front. Bai Xiaowen saw a faint light flickering in the mist from afar. The color of the light was slightly pale, which reminded them of a will-o'-the-wisp. Han Su walked in front. This was the responsibility of an MT, even though he knew that Bai Xiaowen was more resistant to attacks than he was. Soon, the pale light in the mist approached. Bai Xiaowen and Han Su gasped when they saw it clearly. In front of them was a headless figure in white. It was about half a foot off the ground and was holding a lantern made of human heads. The pale light was coming from the lantern's eyes. There was no doubt that it was not a human. It was another ghost. Bai Xiaowen used insight and received a notification that said, "Target is protected by the white stone." He was unable to designate it as the target of insight. "Old Han, back off. Let's test out this ghost's abilities first." Bai Xiaowen waved his hand and released two skeleton swordsmen to try to touch the headless lantern ghost. However, the ghost ignored the skeleton swordsman's obstruction. It floated like a shadow and directly arrived in front of Han Su. The eyes of the lantern glowed brightly and suddenly fixed on Han Su. "Han Su, Team Channel, I've been imprisoned." Fortunately, when the headless ghost used the lantern to immobilize Han Su, it was also released from the white stone protection state. Bai Xiaowen was prepared. Delifa flapped its wings and stabbed the headless ghost with its spear. A cold and sharp howl was heard. It sounded like the screams of thousands of people who were about to die. It was especially terrifying. One of the headless ghost's claws clawed at Han Su's face, leaving 3 bloody marks on his face. Then, the headless ghost that was hit by Delifa quickly retreated. The light of the lantern dissipated. Han Su regained his freedom. He caught his breath and immediately raised his shield to meet the ghost. Bai Xiaowen ordered Delifa to try attacking, and a spear stabbed the headless ghost. Unexpectedly, at the same time that the headless ghost trembled, Han Su's body also trembled, and he let out a muffled groan. "What's wrong?" Bai Xiaowen asked. Han Su hadn't been attacked just now, but his HP had dropped by a small chunk. "I don't know. It suddenly notified me that I've received damage," Han Su said in bewilderment. "Step back. It might be a curse or something." Without the information of insight, Bai Xiaowen could only speculate. He then ordered Delifa to continue attacking. Delifa's attack had proven to be effective. Delifa adjusted its posture slightly and pierced the headless ghost's heart with its spear. The headless ghost let out a shrill wail. Han Su suddenly clutched his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and he almost fell to the ground. His HP suddenly dropped by a large chunk. "Delifa, stop." Bai Xiaowen immediately shouted. Then, the undead fiend Arcane Master appeared and used Yellow Sky on Han Su. Originally, Bai Xiaowen planned to heal Han Su's HP, but after the Yellow Sky skill was used, Han Su's HP bar only increased by a sliver. On the other hand, the headless ghost's scattered body seemed to have been nourished. "Old Han, how are you?" Bai Xiaowen rushed to Han Su's side. "I'm alright. It said that I was hit by a vital strike. Fortunately, it wasn't an instant kill." Han Su struggled to stand straight and took out a piece of food to recover his HP. Bai Xiaowen stopped him. "Don't eat it yet. Han Su? If I'm not mistaken, this ghost's special ability should be damage transfer, or more specifically, buff transfer. In other words, it transfers most of the damage it receives to you. At the same time, most of the healing effect you receive will be transferred to it," Bai Xiaowen explained. Han Su was dumbfounded. "There's a ghost like that? How did it do that?" The main point should be the front part. It scratched your face, so it might have planted a curse or something like that, Bai Xiaowen said. Then what should we do? Han Su asked. If we want to kill this ghost, will I die before it? Bai Xiaowen narrowed his eyes and said, no power is invincible. There's always a way to counter it. Han Su, if I don't make a move, you try to attack this headless ghost. Han Su was a little unsure, but due to his trust in Bai Xiaowen, he still picked up the wrench and heavy shield, strode over, and swung the wrench at the headless ghost's shoulder. The headless ghost's body twisted and slid away easily like a fish, avoiding Han Su's attack. As expected, this kind of damage transfer ability only targets damage or healing from a third party. There's no way to transfer the damage from the target of the link, Bai Xiaowen said behind Han Su. Otherwise, the headless ghost wouldn't have to dodge. It could just stand still and kill you. This way, you can eat food or use health potions to stabilize your HP, Han Su nodded silently. While he raised his shield to block the headless ghost's sharp claws, he took the time to stuff a chicken drumstick into his mouth. His HP slowly recovered. Although the headless ghost had the ability to transfer damage, it wasn't very strong. It was about the level of an advanced elite. Han Su's hammer and shield attack technique had been honed for a long time and was quite mature. Soon, he suppressed the headless ghost. Bai Xiaowen touched his chin. If the headless ghost encounters a lone awakened, who will it find to bind a link? This kind of ability can only prevent others from ganging up on it. If the target of the link can't beat it, then there's nothing else it can do. Suddenly, Bai Xiaowen scanned with his mind power and found a spirit creature flying in the air. Qiao Rui's spirit of the falcon. It's finally here. Bai Xiaowen heaved a sigh of relief and looked up at the falcon's spirit that was flying at a low altitude. It had been more than 8 hours since they entered the treasure space. This should be the second time Qiao Rui released the spirit of the falcon after the cooldown period. This time, he finally found Bai Xiaowen. Qiao Rui deliberately lowered the flying altitude of the spirit of the falcon so that Bai Xiaowen could see it. After confirming that Bai Xiaowen had found it, the spirit of the falcon circled at a low altitude under Qiao Rui's control. It circled 3 times above Bai Xiaowen's head before flying in a certain direction. Bai Xiaowen nodded. I know, then, we'll have to finish this quickly. Old Han. Bai Xiaowen raised his hand and cast a berserk talisman, causing Han Su to enter a berserk state. He was immune to control effects and his damage was greatly increased. It didn't take long for him to hammer the headless ghost to death. In the end, the headless ghost dropped a special item, Spirit of the Scapegoat, Fragment. It was the same type as the Spirit of the Host Ghost, Fragment. Qiao Rui has found us. Let's go. Bai Xiaowen called out to Han Su. The two of them followed the flight path of the spirit of the falcon and quickly caught up. Chapter 825. The two Li Shi sat facing each other from afar, seemingly recovering their physical condition. After a while, one of the Li Shi shouted, "Shameless ghost, come at me again. I'm not afraid of you." The other Li Shi jumped up. Ping, 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 the two started fighting again. Both of them had high agility and exquisite swordsmanship. The battle between the two was like a battle between two technical bosses in the sword song realm. They fought for a long time without a winner. The real Li Shi felt helpless. She originally wanted to use Scarlet Heaven's Edgebreaker passive to destroy her opponent's weapon in the process of clashing weapons to prove her identity. However, she didn't know what weapon the ghost was using, but it wasn't afraid of Scarlet Heaven's Edgebreaker passive. Up until now, its weapon hadn't been destroyed. Similarly, the durability of Li Shi's weapon didn't decrease significantly. This meant that the opponent's weapon didn't have Scarlet Heaven's Edgebreaker passive either. It had been 7 hours since the encounter between the human and the ghost. The two of them had been fighting for an unknown amount of time. During the battle, Li Shi realized that her single-handed swordsmanship, which had been stagnant all this while, was actually improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. It seemed that this ghost that imitated her was the perfect sparring partner because it completely copied Li Shi's attributes, combat skills, and skills. It was almost like another Li Shi sparring with her. This made it easier for Li Shi to discover her shortcomings in swordsmanship during the battle. Li Shi was also very talented in swordsmanship. After discovering her shortcomings, she would intentionally correct them. It wasn't surprising that her swordsmanship had improved. This was also why Li Shi kept pestering her opponent and fighting non-stop. If it weren't for the improvement of her single-handed swordsmanship, she could have just stayed put and waited for Bai Xiaowen to come and take charge of the situation and distinguish between the real and the fake. On the other side, Qiao Rui sat cross-legged on the ground with Han Su standing not far behind her. Suddenly, Qiao Rui opened her eyes. There was a trace of shock in her eyes. "Have you found the captain?" Han Su asked as he strode forward. Qiao Rui glanced at Han Su and then lowered his eyelids without leaving a trace. He concealed his shock and said slowly, "Not yet." "Alas." Han Su sighed and shook his head. "It's not a good idea to just stay here. I'd better go and look for him." "You can't leave." Qiao Rui suddenly stood up and stopped Han Su. The sound attack array had already been set up and was quietly preparing to be activated. Han Su's face was filled with astonishment. Even the two Li Shi, who were fighting, looked over. Qiao Rui said faintly, "Old Han. I don't know if you're a human or a ghost. However, I've already seen the captain through the falcon's spirit and guided him. Wait here, the captain will be here soon." Han Su frowned and said, "You clearly said at the beginning that you didn't find the captain." Qiao Rui said, "That's because I didn't want to alert the enemy. Because there's another person beside the captain, you. So, is the Han Su beside the captain the real one, or are you the real one? I think the possibility of a ghost deceiving the captain is smaller. In other words, I think you're more likely to be a ghost." Han Su said helplessly, "If you're afraid of alerting the enemy, why did you change your words and tell the truth?" Qiao Rui said, "I was wrong at the beginning. If you're a ghost and have the ability to read minds, then no matter how I try to hide, I'll be useless in front of you. Therefore, I played to my strengths and avoided my weaknesses. I'll use a tough attitude to keep you all here and wait for the captain's judgment." Han Su sat down on the ground helplessly. "All right, I'll stay here. Anyway, the captain will come and the truth will be revealed." Even though Han Su showed a submissive attitude, Qiao Rui still couldn't let down his guard. Suddenly, one of the Li Shi said, "Sister Qiao, you could also be a fake, right? Besides, you said you found Xiaowen, but how do we know he's the real Xiaowen?" Qiao Rui said indifferently, "I believe the captain can prove his identity." The four people present, the two Li Shi, Han Su, and Qiao Rui, formed a strange confrontation. No one believed the other. A sense of defeat welled up in the hearts of the members of the White Phoenix Squad. They would rather face a powerful leader and work together to achieve victory than suspect each other like this. But there was nothing they could do about it. In this gloomy atmosphere, Bai Xiaowen and Han Su followed the Falcon Spirit's guidance and found everyone. "Ioyo, everyone is here? There seems to be a few more." When Bai Xiaowen saw the two Li Shi and Han Su, who was not far from Qiao Rui, he was obviously startled. One of the Li Shi ran over. "Xiaowen, this ghost is pretending to be me." "Tisk." The other Li Shi swung his sword from behind. "You shameless ghost, you don't deserve to call me Xiaowen." Ping, ping, pang, pang, the two started fighting again. The two Han Su looked at each other. Their movements were very consistent. They took off their shields and wrenches and stared at each other like two old bulls competing. "Who can tell me what's going on?" Bai Xiaowen dug his ears. "That's about it." Qiao Rui told Bai Xiaowen everything that had happened. Finally, he said helplessly, "In other words, you have 3 tasks now. First, prove that you're you. Second, prove that I'm me. Third, distinguish between the real Li Shi and the fake Han Su. Ghosts can actually infiltrate the team channel." Bai Xiaowen was a little surprised. He thought for a moment and said with a smile, "It seems that the team channel also has a priority. The elite team probably doesn't have a high priority. We've never encountered such a situation before. Even in front of a lord like the Dark Concubine, we can still communicate through the team channel. It's probably because it's rare to see a ghost that's good at infiltrating the team channel." Xiao Rui said helplessly, "Seeing that you're as relaxed as usual, I almost can't help but believe you. However, this shouldn't be a reason for you to prove yourself. I've discovered that these ghosts can imitate personalities and speech patterns." Okay. Bai Xiaowen spread his hands and took out a fragment of the host ghost's spirit. "I think the reason why Tu Li Shi and Han Su appeared is because they encountered a host ghost. It's because I also encountered a host ghost, but I killed it." One of the Li Shi raised his hand and shouted, "Yeah, I was possessed by something cold. It was very uncomfortable. I couldn't see a shadow even when I turned my head. Later, that thing disappeared on its own, and then this guy appeared." She pointed at the other Li Shi with a face full of anger. The other Li Shi jumped up and shouted, "You evil ghost, always complaining like this. Do you think you can hide it from Xiaowen? Naive." Xiao Rui squinted his long and charming eyes and sized up Bai Xiaowen. "Although this thing can increase your persuasiveness, it's not enough to prove your identity." "Well, I didn't think of using this fragment to prove myself. After all, ghosts can also take out this kind of thing to deceive people," Bai Xiaowen said with a smile. "Alright, I'll use a method that ghosts can't do to prove myself first." Bai Xiaowen took out the white stone Ilfif order. Follower summon, White Rose Cecilia. Amid the spatial fluctuations, a one-way portal to another world opened. A few seconds later, a long leg stepped out of the portal, followed by the valiant Whitestone City Lord Cecilia in light armor and holding a large bow. "Dior, you finally thought of me." Cecilia's eyes had a trace of resentment. Bai Xiaowen shrunk his head a little awkwardly. "Sorry," Cecilia smiled sweetly like a spring breeze that thawed the ice. There was a hint of charm in her valiance. "Well, you don't have to apologize. What kind of enemy are we dealing with this time?" "Well, it's a group of ghosts. Be careful, they're different from the ghosts of your world. They're demons," Bai Xiaowen said. Cecilia instantly became serious. "Understood, I'll protect you." "Ahem." Bai Xiaowen tilted his head. "Sister Qiao, I've completed my self-identification, right? Even if the ghosts could forge the Whitestone Ilfif order, they couldn't create a portal to pull Cecilia from the Cane Plane. This was a follower contract that belonged only to Bai Xiaowen and Cecilia." Xiao Rui sighed in relief and nodded. "Well, we all believe that you're you. Quickly use insight on us to prove my identity, and then find the ghost in Shui and Han Su." "No, it seems that insight isn't reliable here. I've already used insight on the two Hans us, and guess what? All I got was old Han's personal information." Bai Xiaowen shook his head. He suspected that it had something to do with the so-called serene white stone. After a pause, Bai Xiaowen smiled and said, "Actually, to prove Sister Qiao's identity, you don't need to use insight. You can use logical analysis. If Sister Qiao is a ghost, would she need to release the spirit of the falcon to lead old Han and me here?" Bai Xiaowen said, "I don't think that's necessary, because the more people we have in our team, the more likely it is that the ghost will be exposed. Originally, she and Han Su had gained the trust of the real Shui, but the appearance of me and another Han Su would destroy this trust. This is something that the ghost doesn't want to see." One of the Li Shi said, "Although it makes sense logically, it still lacks evidence." "Well, I have another way, and that is to ask Sister Qiao a secret that both I and she know, and get her to answer," Bai Xiaowen said. "We've already tried this method before." Qiao Rui shook his head and said, "The ghost has the ability to read minds. It can detect our thoughts, so," Bai Xiaowen chuckled and said, "You've already told me about this ability. Actually, this ability isn't difficult to understand, as long as you think of something else when I ask you a question." How is this possible?" Cecilia's eyes widened. Thoughts flash through a person's mind very quickly, and it was very difficult to control them. The more one tried to control themselves to not think about something, the more their mind would think about it. When asking a question to test someone, the answer to the question would definitely flash through the mind of the questioner, as long as he knew the answer. Bai Xiaowen nodded and said, "This isn't difficult. Shui, Hansu, you and the two ghosts walk 100 steps away and hide behind this rocky hill." "Why do we have to hide?" one of the Li Shi asked, puzzled. "Although I can control myself not to think about the answer to the question, the same can't be said for you. If Sister Qiao is a ghost in disguise, she can obtain the answer by reading your thoughts," Bai Xiaowen said. The other Li Shi mocked and ridiculed, "You shameless ghost, of course you don't understand Xiaowen's thoughts. Just do as you're told." "You!" The two Li Shi bickered as they walked to the back of the rocky hill. "Wait." Bai Xiaowen summoned the butcher, Kits, and the other summoned creatures. "Cecilia, take the summoned creatures and keep an eye on the four of them. Don't let the ghosts escape when they sense something is wrong." Cecilia nodded. Bai Xiaowen glanced at the crowd and sneered, "You dare to pretend to be my team member? How dare you? You two little ghosts, don't even think about running away. Just wait to be turned into pieces." When the two Li Shi and the two Han Zus heard this, the real Li Shi and Han Su naturally felt relieved. Bai Xiaowen also wanted to use this as a warning to see the different reactions of the four people. However, the four people reacted in unison, so he couldn't see any flaws in their plan. After they left, Qiao Rui said, "All right, you can ask your questions now." Bai Xiaowen shook his head and smiled. "Actually, there's no need to ask questions. This is just to reassure the real old Han and old Shi. As for me, I believe in my own judgment. Well, to be on the safe side, I'll ask a question. Sister Qiao, do you still remember how many points of spiritual energy you gave me when you joined the team?" Qiao Rui thought for a moment. "I think it was more than 400,000. 420,000. Bai Xiaowen clapped his hands. "All right, that's enough. Can you really think of other things when you ask questions to avoid the mind-reading ability?" Qiao Rui said, "Then you can do the same and ask old Han and old Shi alone. No need to go through so much trouble." Bai Xiaowen smiled and sent a telepathic message. "Cecilia, bring the four of them here." The two Han Zus and the two Li Shi were brought back, somewhat confused. Bai Xiaowen coughed. "Sister Qiao has verified your identity. There's no doubt that you're our teammate. Next, it's the four of you. All right, now listen to my instructions." Under Bai Xiaowen's instructions, the four people stood facing each other, like the four corners of a square. Although ghosts can imitate our skills and equipment's active skills, and can even infiltrate the team's chat channel, ghosts are still ghosts. If they don't join the White Phoenix team, they can't use the team's skill, guidance. Guidance is a team skill, not an individual ability, so it can't be copied. Bai Xiaowen paused for a moment and pointed at one of the Li Shi. "Next, you'll activate the team's skill, guidance. The target can choose one of the two Han Zus. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.